All right. Good evening and welcome to the planning board meeting for the town of Newbury for September 2nd, 2020. Happy September, everyone. I'm going to just read some opening remarks since we're in the world of a Zoom meeting. As a preliminary matter, this is Pete Pecos. I am the chair for the Newbury Planning Board. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Planning board members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. George Morse.
Yes.
Thank you. Larry Murphy.
Yes.
Thank you. Leslie Matthews.
Yes.
Thank you. Woody Knight.
Yes.
Thank you. Mary Stone.
Yes.
Town Council Lisa Mead of Mead, Tellman, and Costa will be joining us at 7:15. Town staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Martha Taylor.
Yes.
Thank you. Anticipated speakers or presenters on tonight's agenda, please respond in the affirmative. Anthony Guba.
He'll have, people have to unmute themselves.
Please, that would be helpful.
Yes, hello, I'm here.
Thank you. Gary Hubert.
He's here, he's muted, but he's here.
Okay, thank you. William DiFrancesco.
I'm here.
Thank you. Christopher York.
I'm here.
Thank you. John Colantino. Bill Manuel.
Bill, can you unmute yourself, please?
Bill Manuel is here. John will be here shortly.
Wonderful. Is Thad with you as well?
Thad is not here this evening.
Okay, thank you. Adam True.
Adam, can you unmute yourself? He's here, I see him.
Okay. Douglas DeShanes.
I don't see him yet. They may be coming later since they're later
Okay.
in the agenda.
All right, and Scott Cameron.
Same thing.
Okay, great. Introduction. Good evening. This is September 2nd, 2020. Open meeting of the Newbury Planning Board is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to an outbreak of COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order supersedes the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in publicly accessible physical locations. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with the agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. For this meeting, the Newbury Planning Board is convening by video conference via Zoom as posted on the Planning Board's agenda, which can be found on the Planning Board's section of the town's website and which identifies how the public may join. You may join us by going to HB Zoom and enter the meeting ID number 832-714-1056 or by calling 1-929-205-6099 and entering 832-714-1056. Meeting ID number. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that the attendees are participating by video or telephone conference. Meeting materials were provided to board members prior to this meeting for review. Applicants or their representatives may be called upon to speak and, if needed, share information to the screen. Please state the intention after you have been called upon. We have some ground rules that I just want to go over. Before we turn to the first item, please let me go over some clear and effective conduct rules for our business to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I, as the chair, will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After the speaker concludes their remarks, I will go down the list of members, inviting each member by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called further. For all attendees, except board members and staff, please remember to mute your phone, which is toggle 6. You can star 6 and you can toggle back and forth to mute and unmute, or on the computer, the mute button when you're speaking or not speaking. Please use earbuds or earphones with tablets and cell phones. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. Please be aware that video participants can see you and that you should take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captioned by this recording. For any responses, please wait until I yield the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If board members wish to engage in discussion with other members, please do so through the chair. There will be an opportunity for public comment during our public hearings. After the board members have spoken, I will afford the public an opportunity to comment and or ask questions. This is the little cumbersome part, so stick with me here. I will see questions and comments through the raise hand function. For video conference participants, this function could be accessed by clicking on the participants option listed in the menu below the photo gallery. Hover your cursor in this area if you don't see it. A window will open and be displayed on the right. On the bottom of this participant area, you will see the list of phone/video participants, and on the bottom you'll see the ability to click on the button to raise your hand. Please ensure your name is displayed. You may rename yourself by using the more functions next to your name. So please, your first name and last name, and then we can get your address during your questions. Telephone participants can use their key phone pad while using a Zoom meeting. The raise hand function is by hitting *9. I will then allow questions and comments from the public that have hit the raise hand button in the order in which they are listed. Our system lists the order of whom will first raise their hand function. Each participant will be called on to provide his or her name and address, and then they may ask their question or make a comment. I will afford the applicant participant or his or her representatives the opportunity to reply. Your hand will be lowered and then you'll be given the floor for your questions. I will then continue down the list of those individuals who have their hand raised in that column to afford participants, applicants, reps to respond. Should there be any physical or electronically submitted questions or concerns, they will be read into the record. And again, the participant, applicant, or representatives will be afforded the opportunity to speak if the issues raised have not yet been addressed. And my vice chair will make sure that each vote is taken by roll call, and he will kick me under the table. All right. Just a couple things about our meeting tonight. We're going to, our agenda will start with hearings at 7:15. Just so that everyone's aware, we will be having 3 public hearings tonight. The 4th one has been continued. So we're going to try to limit each hearing to 30 to 40 minutes out of courtesy to the applicants, to the members of the public in attendance, and to the board members. So we're just going to try to keep everything on our agenda, and again, try to keep our public hearings, each of them, to the 30 to 40 minute mark, and that way we can be fair and have all components addressed. Okay, let me minimize that. And let me go over here to pick up the agenda. All right, so I see 7:08 on our clock here. Martha, could we start with some submissions? I think I see first Robert Grasso of Engineering Land Services for submission of definitive subdivision plan, 23 Shandell Drive, extension map U06, lots 124 and 126, owner applicant. Scott and Patrick Kinter.
So I provided the Mr. Grasso with some review comments on this, and haven't received anything back yet. So I think we'll be passing over this one until the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Christopher York, Millennium Engineering, for submission of a level 2 site plan review application, 84 Boston Road, map R36, lot 23A, owner Sled Road LLC, applicant K&C Construction Company. Martha?
And this one we're going to pass over and take up at the next.
Okay, great. So we'll be starting a public hearing in 6 minutes. Do we want to start with a town planner's report?
We could do that. We also have the August financial report, which I can put up on the screen if
Oh,
you
that would be great.
like to read that.
Sure.
So let me see. Bear with me for a second and see if I can do that. All right. Can you all see that?
We can.
Okay.
So the planning board financial report, which we must read into the record for August 20th, 2020, payroll and invoices, authorized payroll warrants for town planner and planning administrator, PR 21-03 for pay period ending on 8/1/2020, PR 21-04 for pay period ending 8/15/2020, PR 21-05 for pay period ending 8/29/20. Planning board expense invoices for Verizon and Wireless for our planning board iPad 8/31/2020. So we must read those into the record as a requirement. Thank you, Martha.
Thanks.
Great. And so we have a couple minutes if we want to do a partial or start our town planners report.
So for the planners report, I thought I would just update the board on some pending applications, including the two that we mentioned tonight. We have an applicant who wants to schedule a pre-application conference with us. I think I might have mentioned this one last time for a proposed OSRD at 1517 Coleman Road in Byfield. We also have an applicant who wants to set up a site plan review pre-application conference with us for 3 Newburyport Turnpike, which would be a mixed-use development on the Circle Finishing property. We do have an A&R plan, which will be coming in for 243, 247 High Road for a new lot and some lot line changes. That was also sent back for some revisions that need to be made before it can be presented to the board and endorsed. So fair number of things coming down the pike.
Okay. So is that a total of 5 potential new applications?
Yes.
Okay. I asked Martha to put together a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet of what we have going on, just so that we can use that as a tool for as we schedule forward, and that'll pop up later in the meeting. And just keep in mind that we have 5 additional applications that will be added to that. So the agenda and the activities are going to be kind of full. Okay, Martha, back to you.
All right. So I think that's basically it for the moment for me.
Okay, great. Let me see if there's anything else I can pop up on in 3 minutes. Do we want to discuss? We've done our financial report. We've done our town planners report. Larry, do you want to do a quick ZBA?
Yeah, just very briefly, the ZBA began, the most sensitive matter on their agenda, of course, is the 40B off of Pearson Drive. They opened the hearing, took an overview from the developers on August 20th, and the public hearing's been further continued until September 17th. And the intention, I believe, at that time is to focus on things like traffic issues, fire access, and the like.
Great. Thank you very much. Leslie, do you want to do a quick Board of Selectmen's report?
Board of Selectmen's report, I will say, was full of twists and turns. There were a lot of back and forths as far as liaisons. Mike Doyle became the liaison for the Council on Aging. It went fast and furious. It was a lot to really take in at the time. I have to be very honest with you about that.
Anything specific that would be of concern with regards to this board?
Well, once again, I think it was a lot of things got lost in translation because there was a lot of animosity going on, and so that nothing really seemed to come to fruition during the meeting. The only thing that stands out to me is that during the Board of Selectmen meetings, there has not been the ability for any citizens' concerns. Mark Gleckman was asked to speak about a certain subject, but then he was given the ability to speak as himself, as just, a concerned citizen. So he wanted Selectman Doyle to recuse himself from the town hall, anything that has to do with the town hall, because he lives in such a close proximity, although Selectman Doyle lives right across from what's going on with the police station. So town council advised that it is up to the person who wants to recuse themselves, that they can or they do not have to. And Selectman Doyle decided not to recuse himself.
I think I got the gist of what you're trying to report in on. Thank you, Leslie. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move into our agenda since it is 7:15, and we're going to open up public hearings. And Leslie, in a second, I'll have you read those announcements. We're going to be having 2 concurrent public hearings for the AL Prime gas station and convenience store with coffee shop tenant with a drive-through window operations at 23 Central Street, map R20, lot 28, owner R&E Realty Trust, Ronald and Edna Pearson, trustees, applicant AL Prime Energy, care of Anthony Guba, PE. This will be a site plan review application and a special permit application. And before we start this, Larry, do you want to?
Yes, if I could, I would like to put a statement on the record, Peter. Thank you. I'm going to recuse myself from participating in this either of these hearings. Mr. and Mrs. Pearson, who are the owners of the property, were longtime clients of mine before I retired from the practice of law. In fact, I've actually done legal work for them that relates to this property. And I just don't, I want to avoid any even appearance of a conflict in interest, and quite frankly, don't feel that I could be entirely objective about this. So with your permission, I'm just going to mute myself and will not participate in the discussion or decision-making on this.
Larry, thank you very much. I appreciate those comments. Then what I'll be doing is I'll be appointing Mary Stone, our planning board associate member, to participate in the special permit proceedings of this component, not necessarily the site plan review provision, because there's no provision in our Mass General law or bylaw for that. So Mary will be participating for our special permit. With that said, Leslie, would you mind reading into the record our announcements? And Martha, if you could pop those up on the screen for us.
Sure.
So can you see that, or would you like me to make it a little bigger?
Just a little bit bigger, Martha. Thank you.
So this is the special permit one.
Okay,
How's that?
great. Town of Newbury Planning Board Public Hearing Notice Special Permit. Residents of the town of Newbury and other interested persons, please note that on Wednesday, September 2nd, 2020 at 7:15 p.m., the Newbury Planning Board will hold an online virtual public hearing via Zoom to consider a special permit application submitted by AL Prime Energy, care of Anthony Guba, PE, for a new retail motor fuel gas station with a convenience store that includes a coffee shop, tenant with a drive-through window operation on a property located at 23 Central Street, map R20, lot 28, proper owner R&E Realty Trust, Ronald and Edna Pearson, trustees. The proposed development is shown on drawings entitled New Gas Station, C-Store Drive-Through, AL Prime, hashtag TBD, 23 Central Street, Byfield, Mass, dated April 29, 2020, and described in supporting documents as prepared by AL Prime Energy Consultant, Inc. Anthony Guba, PE, the application is on file with the town clerk and in the planning office, Suite 101, 12 Kent Way, Byfield, Mass. A digital or hard copy may be requested by emailing planningboard@townofnewbury.org. The application may also be viewed on the planning board section of the town's website. For more information, contact the planning board at 978-465-0400 0862, extension 312. All persons interested or wishing to be heard relative to the proposed development should appear at the designated time and place. Interested persons may participate in the meeting from their computer, tablet, or smartphone at https://www.zoom.us/J8321413056 or by telephone by calling 1-929-205-6099 US and using meeting ID number 832-7141-3056, or may watch the meeting live on local access channel 9 or at www.tnctv.org. The virtual meeting connection information will be included on the September 2, 2020 Planning Board meeting agenda, which will be posted on the Town of Newbury website no less than 48 hours prior to the meeting. Peter Pecos, Chair, Newbury Planning Board. Published Newburyport Daily News, August 17th and August 24th, 2020. Bill to Anthony Guba, PE 18 Lark Avenue, Saugus, Mass. Email anthony.guba@alprime.com.
Leslie, thank you very much. And I think there's going to be, is there one more to read?
There is. I don't know if we have to read the entire thing.
Okay,
It's pretty much the same, but I will put that up.
just so it can be visualized.
Yep. Can you see that?
Not yet.
Take a swig of water.
How about now? No?
Not yet, no.
Not yet.
Okay. Bear with me. Now?
Yes. So this is with regards to our site plan review. Pretty much the same verbiage. Leslie, I
Yeah.
want you to read it.
That's good.
Yeah. And just for record, this was published in the Newburyport Daily News on August 17th and the 24th. What's the bottom say? Okay, good. Very good.
Information.
Still two, great. That's that. All right.
Can you bring it down just a little bit, Martha? Because I can't see there you go. Terrific.
Leslie, you don't have to read it. That's okay. I'll save you the verbiage.
Okay.
Beautiful. Okay, because this is basically the same verbiage for the site plan review. With that said, I'd like to ask Martha, could you please just confirm that the tear sheets and certified mail receipts are received?
Yes. I've received scanned email versions of them, but they are received.
Great. With that being said, I'd welcome the representatives, either Tony Guba and Bob Grasso, to make our presentation.
And Tony, you'll have to, there you go.
Representative for AL Prime that put together the plan and the applications. I'm a registered professional engineer. I've been working with small commercial development, primarily gas stations, since 1982, so it's almost 40 years. Throughout New England, New York, the Mid-Atlantic. So I've been involved in hundreds of projects all over the area, including many. At one time, I worked for about 15 years out of Danvers, so I know the area pretty well. Basically, what we're proposing to do is to convert a location that is at 23 Central Street to a gas station with a convenience store and a drive-through window for a coffee operation. I guess what I should do is share my screen, if I can do that.
Yes, I've made you a co-host, so you should be able to do that now.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so let me back up just a little bit. And I'll run, I know we were pressed for time, so I'll try to skim through things a little quicker. And if there's any question, let me know. And please interrupt me. Basically, this is from the assessor's map. The area in blue is the site that we're talking about. And this dashed line is the 300-foot radius around the site. You can see I-95, the ramps to and from on the east side. You can see Central Court, Center Street, and Fruit Street, the Pearson Building. So it gives you an idea of where the site is. From an aerial view, again, 95, and the site that we're talking about is right here, almost at the intersection of Central Court and Central Street. The site was surveyed for existing conditions. We have two versions in the site plan set. One's at 20 scale, one's at 40. This one at 20 is a little bit closer. You can see there's a residential use, a storage building, a logging operation. The Pearson operations over here is Fruit Street, and a residential across the street. There's a wetland area over here. The buffer comes to the gutter line on the north side of Central, but does not go over any of the proposed area of work. So at this point, my understanding is no Conservation Commission application is required as far as work in any kind of buffer or resource area. However, under Newbury regulations, my understanding is there is a stormwater management permit required that will be handled by the conservation, so that once we're through this process, if we proceed, we'll then proceed with permitting with the Conservation Commission for the stormwater portion of it. The basic plan that's in the plan set, I have to say that since we've submitted this, we have gotten peer review comments from Joseph Sawirka and also from Stantec for the traffic. We are in the process of addressing those comments, and we're hoping that we can address all of them. I don't see any major conflict in any of the peer review comments that would cause us to have anything that the board would have to decide on one way or the other, because I think we can come to an agreement on all of the points. So the plans that we're talking about now is as it presented. We expect a second hearing, and at the second hearing, we'll have a revised set of plans that will incorporate those things. And as I go through this tonight, I'll be able to point out some of the things that we'll incorporate. So the plan in general will stay the same. The building, a fueling area under a canopy out front, a fueling tank area. Behind the building, there's a propane tank area, a trash enclosure, a place for an emergency generator, a menu board for the drive-through window. The drive-through window is located on the west side of the building, and there would be two driveways going into the site. To make it a little easier to see, I've got a color version of that, and it kind of points out where the building is in blue. The canopy is in a transparent blue area. The fueling island's underneath there. And the amount of the site that's paved as opposed to grass or mulch. I'm showing some landscaping on here, and I'll address that later. We already have a new landscaping plan per Joe Sawirka's comments. We already have a new lighting plan, also per his comments. We're working on all new grading and stormwater also. Again, just to give you an idea of how the site looks and better to be able to visualize what's in a two-dimensional view, you can see the two driveways on Central Street, a forecourt with 12 fueling positions, basically 6 dispenser areas that can be fueled on either side, an area for the storage tanks, the store itself, the drive-through window on the west side of the building. And the general flow of the property would be that most vehicles that would use the drive-through would drive around the back of the building to the drive-through and then exit. Most vehicles that will be using fuel will pull in to the fueling islands and then be able to either go to the building or proceed through the drive-through or make a U-turn and head out if they don't want to engage any of the other offerings on the site. We are very familiar with gas stations. We're familiar with all of the safety and environmental requirements for the tanks, the piping, the fuel dispensers, the fuel area, and everything that we're proposing to do here will be state-of-the-art, new, and most up-to-date equipment and materials that can be used for this type of station. To give you a quick idea of the grading, this might look a little intense, but that's because the grading on this plan is shown in 1 foot increments. You may be used to seeing it on 2 foot increments. So if you cut the number of lines in half, you can see that the grading on the site is not overly aggressive. We were showing a basin in the back and one in the front island. Based on the peer review comments, those are going to go away. So those will not be in the revised plans that we will present, but most everything else will be in the same position. Because of the high groundwater at the site, we are planning on infiltrating a great deal of the stormwater on the site. So from that standpoint, you can see that we've got infiltration systems out front. We've got for the canopy and for the building roof areas. And this, which is now shown as a detention basin, or was shown on the new plans, will be another subsurface infiltration system in this area here. One of the comments that came up in the review was the fact that areas outside of the property lines were being used for grading, and in this case, setback of the infiltration system. And we have already discussed that with Mr. Pearson, where these properties are now under common ownership. We will be able to get an easement and will be able to agree to a condition for an easement that will allow us the adequate room to provide good grading and good setback for the infiltration systems all the way around the property on these two sides. We'll meet everything that we need to meet on the east side. That includes an erosion control plan. And a comment was made about the erosion controls, sedimentation controls being outside the property line. And this is what I was mentioning. This is the type of thing that the easement would grant us a right to be able to do. We included in the plan set a layout of the drainage existing and proposed for the site. And one of the comments that came from the peer review is that the property to the east, the Noyes property, slopes towards this and should be included in the calculations. So we actually are revising it, and this blue area, which is offsite, will be added into our stormwater and plan into our calculations. So it will significantly increase the area that we're looking to include. But even with that, we feel that how this is designed with our infiltration systems, that we'll be able to meet all of the town requirements, not only containing the 2 and 10-year storms, but also being able to contain almost, if not all, of the 100-year storms. There will definitely be a reduction in the 100-year event for off-site runoff. We have a landscaping plan that's in your set, but one of the comments was that this plan was not stamped by a landscape architect, which I did not realize was required in the site plan regulations. So we already have a new plan that's been put together. It looks a lot like the old plan, but this has been prepared by a landscape architect out of, I think she's in Amesbury. And there's some changes to the landscape. You can see some of the trees and things. So I'm not looking to try to explain this to you now and have you consider it, except to know that we are taking seriously the peer review. We are taking seriously the fact that we need to modify and revise the plans in order to make them fully comply with all the site plan regulations and the stormwater regulations. So that's the main reason I'm showing you that. Similarly to the landscaping plan, we submitted a lighting plan where the only comment that I have received on this is that there is a requirement in the site plan regs under the parking section that limits the maximum lumens on any individual fixture to 10,000. We previously had some of the fixtures around the perimeter were at 13,000, and some of the fixtures, or I guess all of the fixtures under the canopy, were at 11,000. We now have a new plan already prepared that reduces the lumens of any fixture, so that I think the maximum now is like 8,300 compared to the 10,000 max in the bylaw. The lighting levels are going to go down a little bit, but they're already really low. I mean, almost every lighting level around the perimeter of the property is less than 1 foot candle. We showed a number of different traffic paths through the property, looking at emergency vehicle access, looking at our delivery tankers, and also looking at a queue for the drive-through. The layout changes that we make are not going to affect any of these traffic paths. We feel that there's a good amount of room. All of the traffic will have ample maneuver space. There is a good access to all 4 sides of the building and the fueling area for any emergency or fire access. There was a question that I saw about the queue length being 18. We do show 18 within the property. And the reason we show that is because sometimes, especially I guess now with the COVID, some of the drive-through locations are busier than usual because people just don't want to go into the building or get out of their car. So we show the 18, but we normally use a number of a dozen or 13 cars as being the maximum that a drive-through will have during the peak hour, which would limit this drive-through queue to somewhere around the building. There was a comment about trying to label the drive-through lane and make it easier for people to understand where they need to be. And we're certainly amenable to adding pavement markings or signage to make it more clear as to where that drive-through lane is. The drive-through lane also has additional pavement to be able to allow bypass so that a vehicle could drive outside of the drive-through lane around, or if someone's in the lane and decides I forgot my wallet, I got to leave, they can pull out and go out without having to wait in line for the people in front of them. You'll notice that on the delivery tanker routes that we're showing, depending on the route of the tanker truck, that the driveway widths are fully utilized in order to keep the truck from having to cross the center lane on exit, and also to be able to get into the site smoothly. So that's basically how that was put together. On this side, we kept the driveways at 30 feet. On this side, we show a mountable curb so that when a truck needs to leave the site, they'll be able to drive over that, where it would be uncomfortable for a passenger vehicle to do that. A truck would not have an issue with that. There's some technical plans here. I can just whip through these quick. If you have questions, I can go through them. But basically, we do have plans for the piping, for the tanks. Again, these I'm sure will be reviewed closely by the fire department. They meet all the Mass DEP specs. They will be double wall tanks with active interstitial monitoring, which means it's not just waiting for something to happen. If either wall is breached, there will be an alarm, not just the internal wall. We have a fire suppression plan. There'll be a dry chemical system that will cover the entire fueling system. It is designed to allow, in an emergency event, for a fire to be extinguished long enough for the occupants of the vehicle to exit and get out of the area, the fueling area. This will all be required to be approved by the local and state fire authorities before it could be constructed. A second plan just shows that in more detail. We have details for the site. We are probably going to eliminate most of the retaining walls. On the new layout, we'll probably have just a small retaining wall in the back corner near where the Pearson operation has a propane storage cage. So we'll stay away from that with our grading. But other than that, I think we've been able to eliminate all of the other retaining walls. The main one was in that previous retention area, which is now going subsurface. The floor plan for the building, basically, as you can see, this is a typical format that you would run into at any store. You would enter here, the attendant is to the right, the coffee service is to the left. We would dedicate this entire portion of the store at the left end for a tenant. We're hoping that it would be someone like Dunkin'. For our traffic analysis, we're looking at Dunkin' because we think that they would generate the highest traffic volumes, and that if someone else went in there, it would be a lower traffic volume, so it wouldn't upset the consideration of the traffic from that end. We are showing some seating. We're showing it as 12 seats. On the first page, we had indicated no seating, but then we also showed on the C1 in our parking calculation, consideration for 12 seats. The walk-in cooler would be in this area here, and then we have a freezer and additional walk-in space on this side. There'd be a hallway between the two to public ADA restrooms. There's mechanical area behind the walk-ins and behind the attendant. This is our typical building. It would be a split face block building in white with a yellow fascia wrapping the building. There would be some, depending on the tenant and what the tenant would like to use for architectural elements to highlight their drive-through area, there would be some kind of treatment on that side of the building for that. We normally have a blue pillar in the front of the building that will have the signage for the building. As far as I'll talk about signage when I have that sheet up. We are looking for to put in an external ATM machine that would be on the front face of the building. The back of the building's fairly straightforward. Runoff from the building would be collected in downspouts and run to the infiltration system. The canopy is also pretty typical, straightforward, and it would cover the entire fueling area. The signage that we're talking about would be, is shown here, but I'm not looking for any kind of waiver, exception, variance, or anything. If there's anything on this plan that's adverse to the regulations in the town, we'll adjust that. The intent is that the signage being proposed meets the regulations, and so if I'm showing too many or too much, we'll scale that back, and we would get the sign permit as a matter of right, as a separate issue after the building permit is issued. That's basically my presentation of all the plans. I think that I'm open to questions. I can go through some of the other items. I know that some of the peer review for the traffic indicated some things that they would normally see in a traffic study. And I'll have to take the blame for that. You know, at the time that we were putting the application together, we didn't feel that traffic would be a problem for this location or that we would have a major impact. My understanding of the regulations was that a traffic study is not required automatically, but that it would be something that the board would decide whether they would like to see one. So to be a little bit proactive, I asked our traffic consultant to put together a cursory traffic study that would give us an idea whether or not there would be any major issues caused by what we're looking to do. And that's what we got. Anything that the peer review has identified as a possible item that they would like to see in there, we'll add that to the traffic study. For example, there was a question about level of service for the intersection at Fruit Street, and we'll go ahead and do counts and provide that information. We don't expect that there will be any issue there, but I can't at this point because we just haven't done the counts. It's taken a lot of time to go out, survey the noise property. We did put in an additional test pit in the back of the lot to confirm groundwater depth for eventual septic design. So having to do all that and try to rework all of the stuff, well, wasn't able to completely revise the entire package, but we're pretty far along, and I feel that we're going to be able to do everything that has been suggested or that has been expressed as a concern. If you like, I can answer any questions. And
Well, thank you, Tony, very much for that detailed presentation and for the PowerPoint. We might come back to that. What I'd like to do now is I would, since you brought up traffic, I'd like the planning board's traffic consultant who is here tonight, Gary Hebert, to present. I believe he has a PowerPoint as well. So Gary, I'm going to give you the floor for a little bit.
First of all, can everybody hear me okay before I?
Yes.
We can.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much.
And I have made
Okay,
you,
Thank
I've
you,
made you
and I wanted
co-host.
to thank Mr. Guba and also Martha for all the help she's given me in putting this together, because I've not done a presentation on Zoom before, so she was very helpful in letting me do a trial run on this before actually putting this out. So what I'm going to do is, I guess I'm going to try the share screen button. Is that the right one, Martha?
Yes, and I've made you a co-host, so you should be all set to do that.
Okay. Let me exit from the screen for a second. Let's see if I can find my. Hit share. That's the whiteboard.
It's, yeah, down, if you hover your mouse over the bottom of your screen, you should have a green button that says share screen.
Okay.
And then that'll pick up the windows, all the different applications you might have open, and you can click on the one that you'd like to use.
Yeah, or double click on it, actually.
Double click, thanks, yes. Perfect, there you go.
White screen. It's not
Yeah, all we're seeing, Gary, right now is white.
the white screen. Okay.
Yeah,
Let me try that again. Here we go.
yep, you got it.
I got
Just-
it. Okay.
Yep, you just need to now enlarge it for the screen.
Need to larger for the screen. Let's see here.
All right, and if you can speak up or get a little closer to your microphone, that
Okay,
might
I'm getting close to the microphone. I'm just trying to enlarge it for the screen here. I actually want to get it for it.
There we go,
Okay, is that better? All right.
yes.
perfect.
As Tony mentioned in his presentation, the site plan, its context is around just a little bit to the east of Fruit Street and more or less opposite Central Court. And as I went out to the site, I wanted to make it clear to
I'm having trouble hearing. Could you speak up, sir?
Okay, can you hear me better now? Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
When I went out to the site, it was very clear that traffic in the area was very low relative to normal conditions where you would have a superstation, for example, because Central Street does not carry a lot of traffic. So that immediately was an indication that I thought this site would work very, very well in this particular area. So this is one of the things that's important to understand, that when I was out there, my intention was not to redo a traffic study. That's not what I do. I'm reviewing it to make sure that what was addressed is reasonable. So at this point, I wanted to be clear that when I was out there, I was looking for cues that would allow me to understand the context for this study from a traffic perspective, how it might be used by all the users, pedestrians, bikes, and drivers to the site. So I was very careful in reviewing the study to make sure we had the right information. First of all, what I did was I reviewed the Mueller study that dated March 11th, visited the neighborhood on August 19th. I know there was a letter received from the deputy fire chief about what was done out there at the August 19th study. It wasn't a study then, it was really just a review of what's going on there. Just want to make that clear. I coordinated with Ron Mueller Associates and the town planner on peer review questions that I had on the traffic in the area, and submitted a traffic circulation review findings letter dated August 27th, 2020. And after that, I did contact Mr. Mueller before sending that in to discuss some of the issues I was finding, and he was very helpful in explaining his information. So what I'm going to do is going to look at the normal things that we do look at a site. I reviewed the sight lines, and the information presented in the traffic assessment was pretty reasonable and pretty accurate in terms of the critical stopping sight distance in the area. It is exactly as it was estimated, around 410 feet from the east, and to and from the east, and 500 feet to and from the west. And that's a reasonable thing. We would normally look for that. The intersection sight distance, when you look out from the west driveway, it should be fine. But from the east driveway, I had a little bit of a concern as I was looking that there was a tree and the road kind of jogs to the left as you're looking out, so that the sight line there is looking 10 feet back might be a little bit constricted. When I was out there, I was able to get decent visuals of the vehicles coming down the street. But again, it's recommended that they will be monitoring the growth in the immediate area of the driveway. And that was something that was recommended in the traffic assessment anyway. But my own conclusion after looking out there is that this particular driveway is not the greatest one to be taking exits from based on the site conditions. Also, since it's slightly offset from Central Court, I think it's important to understand that it's not a good idea to have slightly offset intersections, because it creates hazards between left turns that might be coming out of either of the sites against one another. So those conflict points can be minimized if this became an inbound driveway versus a two-way driveway. So that's one thing that was found from looking at the site. Also, normally we do look at the crash data in the background to see what's been occurring, to see if there's not a high crash area already. And the data I reviewed found that it is not a high crash location. Over the 5 years, there's one or fewer reported crashes at any given intersection in the area. So that's good news for the site. It looks like you're not putting a site into a bad area where there'd be a lot of crashes. This is not one of those. So that's a good thing. So my conclusion is not a high crash rate. Again, normally this would be provided in the study, but I understand from Mr. Guba's explanation about why this wasn't done. And I'm not trying to add work to the project. I'm just trying to basically explain what I normally look for in this sort of a study. Now, looking at the trip generation, I thought the estimates made in the traffic assessment were reasonable and acceptable. They're on the high side for morning peak hour, which would be expected. There's two different criteria for estimating trip generation. It's fueling positions, which are 12, and then building square footage, which is 4,350, according to the ITE information, the Institute of Transportation Engineers. I do want to mention, though, that ITE does not specifically mention drive-through windows as part of the criteria, but when you look at compare this to the drive-through windows, it's pretty on par with what a drive-through window would generate. So I'm not concerned too much about that. I think they're reasonable estimates and they make sense to me. So from a traffic perspective, the trip generation I think is reasonable and not a problem at all. I did have a bit of an issue with the traffic distribution. It's not as tough as it looks, but from my perspective, I firmly believe that there's going to be much more traffic coming from I-95 to this site than just that's along Central Street itself, because of the relative volumes of traffic on I-95 versus Central Street. I-95 carries over almost like roughly 74, 77,000 vehicles per day, while Central Street carries 7,250. And that's where you're going to have the signage, explaining this is a site, this is a location. We now have a Dunkin' Donuts or whatever we have on the site as a drive-through, and more convenient than the opposite site that's on the other side, which is the Prime Station that already exists. So this will be a site generator that will generate a lot of diverted and pass-by trips. In fact, I expect very few in the way of brand new trips where somebody goes home to go to this site and comes back and goes back home. Vice versa, even to work. Usually if people are going to go here, they're doing it on their way to something. They're on their way to work or on their way home or whatever. That's how people use these things. So I do agree with the traffic assessment that very little of these will be brand new trips going specifically to this site. They're diverted link trips and pass-by trips. And primarily, in my opinion, diverted link trips, which means that at least from where I see it, roughly 90% of the trips will be coming to this site will be making a left turn into the site, turning around and going back either north or south on I-95 from whichever direction they came from. But there's still, there's 7,000 vehicles on Central Street. So some of those will be coming in, going to back either towards Main Street or wherever they came from. But those are vehicles that would be going on Central Street itself, not related to the ramps. So, if it's on there on Central Street, then it's unrelated to what's coming off the ramps to this site. Now, that said, I think it's important to keep in mind that the small link of the project between the ramps and the site is going to generate a lot more traffic on it than exists there today, probably close to 2,000 cars a day if you want rough numbers, so over what you've got compared to today. But that's 7,200 versus 9,700, whatever that number happens to be. If you aggregated the two together, it's about, but that's just a small link in there, and it's not going to cause any traffic going toward Central beyond Central Port, for example, just in the area between the ramps and the site itself. So that's one thing I wanted to be concerned about, was looking at, well, is there any possibility that there would be any kind of left turn protection needed at this site? So we look at a couple things. One is the advancing volume and the opposing volume to see whether or not there would be warrants according to MassDOT guidelines for left lane warrants. And I did find out by looking at this that there's enough opposing volume and advancing volume to consider the possibility of doing some protection for left turns coming into the site. It may not necessarily be a full lane, but at least having some storage areas so that traffic can go by to the on the right side of it when they're stacked up occasionally. And from my analysis, I think it's going to be very occasionally that you'll run into a situation where you have more than one or two cars turn left in the site. It's going to be very rare, at least from the preliminary assessment I did from a traffic analysis perspective. All right, so what about the access drive itself? I just recommended that Mueller Associates should evaluate the morning and evening peak hour driveway operations for delay and queuing on Central Street, just to confirm what I suspect is that it's going to be okay, but I want to make sure that they've looked at it closely and can submit to me the actual analysis showing what would happen to driveways. We think the driveway operating level of service will be acceptable. We do think that without some form of left turn mitigation, some motorists will occasionally back up on Central Street, delaying eastbound traffic behind them. That's really about the extent of the possible impact. Again, when I was out there, I saw nothing that would alarm me about how this was going to generally operate in the future, just something to make it a little better than what was shown on the site plan. So that said, what are the recommended site mitigation measures? Well, one thing I would strongly recommend that you consider making the east driveway one-way in and the west driveway one-way out. And if they can, reduce the widths on increasing the green space. Now, I listened to Tony's discussion about the driveways and how he believes that they need these for the truck turning movements. Again, looking at how those turning templates worked, my sense was that the trucks would be able to make the right turn out from the west drive, even if it was at 20 feet, until you got all the way over to the extended area, which is actually another 10 feet over the 20 feet. So that gives you 30 feet to turn right out of there. And I believe that was enough to do that. Same with going in on the other side from the fire station. I know the fire station is located to the east of this site, and we'd be coming in, making a right turn. From what I can tell, they could swing the trucks out and make a right turn into the site, even if it was 20 feet wide. But I'll forgo that and say that if you want to leave it the way it is, that's fine. It's just that I believe that it would be better to narrow it if you can, because it would increase the green space a bit on the site and be beneficial to just making traffic flow a little bit simpler on the site. Okay, this is the site, the street side of the site plan. And I just want to show 3 options about what might be done on Central Street. Is my time up? Is that what that bell's for, Peter?
No. Someone joined the meeting.
Okay. In looking at this, I had 3 options. The first one is the full left turn lane coming into the site. What it does is kind of creates a little traffic calming effect when you're headed toward the west, going toward the interchange. Right now, instead of just having the straight 2 lanes coming in here, you have a little painted island on the street with a left turn lane and a 2-foot offset, and then widening out as you get toward the existing crosswalk just on the east side of Fruit Street. I also suggested the possibility of doing some kind of a sidewalk connection between the site and the crosswalk, just because people might want to cross the street to get to the site in the neighborhood. I thought it'd be a good idea to have something like that. And so if you look in this area, the critical area, I had done some narrowing of the island in this area, but widening it out with the green space to at least provide as much green space, or in fact, more so than what you have in the plan. But again, making these driveways 20 feet wide rather than 30 feet wide is shown in the plan. And the red areas would be land that would be moved from green space, and the green areas would be added. Also showed a slight changing of this corner for Central Court to make it a more of a better angle for approaching that intersection to the south, and because they're still making left turns, and it is a good idea to have it as much perpendicular to the street as possible when that's being done. So that's option A. That's the full left turn lane. We would show it as being something that would be considered to best for traffic left lane bypass, but it would be least bike friendly and maybe less compatible with the rural character of the area, which I think is important to understand. This second option is not a full left turn lane. It does provide for an 18-foot minimum width headed toward the site before you get to the east driveway. So that would allow cars that are typically 6 feet wide to bypass on the right, because typically your minimum width that you need for bypassing to the right is about 16 feet. That gives you 7 or 8 feet for the car, and then another 8 feet to bypass to the right. So this is like a secondary option. I would still do the little painted island toward the crosswalk to make it more visible. And again, add a kind of a slow point to the area, because there are pretty decent speeds coming out here, 35 miles per hour. I'm just trying to make it very obvious to a driver that's coming from either direction. This is a slower point than it used to be with all these movements in there. Because you're going to have a site that now generates 10 trips a day being replaced with a site that generates more than 2,000 trips a day, 300 some odd in the AM peak hour. The last one I'm going to show you is the one that is, I actually prefer this one for the area only because I think it fits in more with the area, but it's a 4-foot shoulder carried all the way through up to Central Court, and from Central Court both in the east-west direction. It's a 4-foot lane, which is at least bike-friendly for the each side of the road, because it allows at least a minimum of 15 feet for the westbound side of the road and 16 feet for the eastbound side. But again, this is something for consideration of the board. I wouldn't go out on a limb and say that you absolutely have to do this. I would just recommend that it be considered, because this site is going to be a lot busier in the future than it is now. So from that perspective, I just wanted to give a brief summary of what the peer review findings were. First of all, the traffic assessment, the vehicle trip generation estimates are reasonable and acceptable. I have no problem with them. They're pretty good. The project that, we believe that there's going to be a higher percentage of diverted trips from the highway than what the study assumed. The study assumes 60% of trips will be coming just from Central Street and 40% from the highway. I think it's going to be much higher from the highway, maybe as much as 92% from the highway, 8% from Central Street, based on the volumes in the area. So I would say that's going to be higher from a diverted link perspective. The 17 parking spaces on the site should suffice, as should the 15 to 18 vehicle on-site queuing lane for the coffee drive-through area. And as Tony was mentioning in his presentation, there's at least 18 spaces on the site, and that should be sufficient to cover the typical maximum demand that you're going to see for that drive-through during the morning peak period. Again, we do find that future left turn demands are high enough to warrant consideration of some kind of a left turn bypass, not just simply striping it so that people automatically have to wait behind all left turning vehicles that are turning into the site. As far as the site motor vehicle access, consider the east driveway in only, west driveway out only. I believe it would increase green space and mitigate left turn queuing, because it allows vehicles to pull forward further away from Fruit Street if they're all coming in from the east driveway than from the west driveway. And again, consider enhancing left-in access. Finally, bicycle and pedestrian access. There's nothing in your guidelines that specifically cite this to be done, but I would say consider a new sidewalk connecting the site to Central Street from the crosswalk, and 1 or 2 bike storage racks on the site would be a reasonable thing to consider. But again, since it's not in your regulations, I'm sure you may or may not want to require something like this. It's up to you. So from that perspective, thank you for listening, and I'll be glad to take any questions from the board that you may have.
Gary, thank you very much. We appreciate the peer review. Just so folks know, we had an opportunity to start this because we had a little bit of legwork that was done before the applicant started this public hearing. So Gary, thanks very much. What I want to do is, appreciating the fact that we will be continuing this hearing, I just want to ask any board members if they have any questions or comments at this point in time to either the applicant or the traffic peer review. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go individual by individual. So George, do you have any questions at this point in time?
Yes, I did. Gary, when was the traffic count made, or was it extrapolated over a period of time? And the reason I ask that is that since the pandemic began, traffic has gone down at least substantially in the area, and I think it's beginning to build up now. But can you tell me that, when it was done?
Yes, the counts were done by the applicant in November of 2019. So this was before the pandemic. So they did increase the volumes that they counted by 4%, because November is a month that's slightly lower than usual. Now, one of the points I made in my peer review is that they did not do a typical projection year for this particular development. Typically, most developments, you look out 2 years, however long it takes to build the site, you look 5 years beyond that. That's typically how it's done for a traffic impact study. But again, the town does not have specific traffic impact guidelines. So I'm hard pressed to say the applicant needed to do this for this particular study, because it, and unless I'm wrong, I don't believe that the right of way in front of the site is a mass dot layout. Am I wrong about that? It is a little wider than it is in the area, but is this site the mass dot layout? Does anybody know that answer? Because I couldn't find out specifically.
Martha, do you know the answer to that question, or is that something we should research?
Yeah, I'm actually not sure. I know that we do have some state layout for portions of Central Street, but it stops at some point, and I'm not sure exactly where that is.
Okay. The only reason why I would say that is because if this is in a state highway layout, you always have to be concerned to make sure there's no environmental notification form needed. I don't believe there would be in this case because they're not generating more than 1,000, quote, new trips. That's the key thing. New trips meaning entirely ones that wouldn't be in the area. They wouldn't be on I-95 or whatever in the area. And these, as opposed to diverted, linked, and pass-by trips, which this site primarily would generate, is those diverted, linked, pass-by trips. So it wouldn't meet the criteria for providing a new NENF, environmental notification form, for example. But I don't know whether or not this is on a state highway layout. And again, even if they did meet that criteria, they would need another state action of some sort in order to do that. Like
I don't see a hand wave option here anywhere.
So,
But
Tony, hold on just for a sec, Tony, because I just want to see if George has any more questions, and then we'll kind of circle back. So just give me just a second.
I can answer that question is what I'm saying about the DOT. It is definitely outside of the DOT jurisdiction. We definitely looked at that.
Well, thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Tony. George, do you have any other?
No, thank you, Gary, for that answer. I appreciate it.
Thank you, George. Leslie, do you have any questions or comments at this time?
Clarification as far as entering and exiting, are they suggesting to put in a center lane just for that specific reason?
The specific reason for and it's not a center lane, as I said, it was just by basically treating the left turn axis. Again, when I was out there, it was during the pandemic, so I wasn't seeing full hourly volumes, but it was pretty light when I was out there. So, and even when I did an analysis of the volumes in November of 2019, the ones that were presented in the report, I didn't see any particular problems with that, except that occasionally it might back up a few car lengths, toward Fruit Street. That was the only thing that I saw, and it's really only occasionally. It was not a continuous thing. But from that perspective, that you look at that to see whether or not a left turn lane was warranted. And again, I did the analysis to find out whether or not there was a left turn lane warranted at this location. It said it just, for the morning peak period anyway, it did meet it. But I'm not saying you would do this necessarily. It just means that if you wanted to put one in, you could be justified in doing so. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Leslie, do you have anything else?
I just curious about the distance between the entrance between Pearson Plaza and the exit entrance for the new Prime location. Will they interfere with one another? Because I know I live in like that kind of in this neighborhood, and pretty aware of what the traffic situation is and how it enters and exits into the Pearson Plaza, and times of day and things of that nature. So just wondering if it'll be an easy flow between the two establishments.
Again, that's why I suggested that they look at the environment around it, the two intersections nearby. It's normally done to see what's going to happen. I don't believe there's going to be a problem. That's my sense from looking at it. But I thought it would be a good idea to look at those and provide the information so that so I can base my review on something more than just I looked at it and for a few minutes. But that's the point. I think it would be a good idea to provide that, and apparently, according to Tony, they are going to be providing that soon. That's
Good. You set, Les?
All set. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Woody, do you have any questions or comments at this time, sir?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you, Woody. Mary, do you have any questions or comments at this time?
Just two quick ones. The fire department has suggested that the propane tank be removed in proximity from the trash receptacle. And I assume that's going to be done. Makes sense. The other is the one-way entrance and exit seem to be a very good idea given the nature of this neighborhood.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just ask one more question that just happened to slip my mind prior to, what is going to happen to the existing prime?
Right. Yeah, good one.
Tony, I think that's Tony, I think that's directed to you.
Okay, I didn't know if you wanted me to answer. Again, I can't, I'm sorry, but I don't see a hand.
I think maybe if Gary could stop his screen share, he might be able to access.
I couldn't see it before when you read the minutes, but then I didn't know if I was going to need it anyway. Basically, the question about the existing station, we just renewed our lease there. I mean, we're committed to both locations. It's not something that's unusual for us. If you went to Seabrook, you'd see 2 stations within a mile of each other. If you go to Quincy, you've got 2 stations almost across the street from each other, and another one less than half a mile away or so at 571, 596, and 700 Hancock Street. If you go to Dracut, we just finished building a station and opened it up about a month ago. And it's within a couple miles of another station on the same side of the road on a major commute route. And people ask the same thing, but the way that we have our customers come in, I think that this is not a problem in having multiple stations next to each other. For one thing, they're on opposite sides of the highway, which makes it easier for someone who's just pulling in for gas not to have to cross over and then cross back. It allows us to spread out the traffic a little bit. I mean, if there's a concern about the amount of volume that the station's going to get, that doesn't take into consideration that we'll be in a little way scavenging some of the traffic with our other station from what you would think would be generated here. So I think that having the 2 stations is a plus. They're a little bit different in what they provide. And I think that like I said, we just renewed the lease. We don't own that property, so we don't have as much control over improving it, over long-term commitment to it. We've had a couple locations where the landlord decided to change what their plans were for the location, and we had to leave. By having a location that we own, we'll always have a presence here, regardless of what happens at the other locations. So from our standpoint, that provides us a little bit. We love this. The town. We love this location. So I don't see any problem with the 2 locations. That question has come up before.
Thank you very much.
And then one other thing, the propane that someone asked, yes, we have planned to just swap the parking and the propane, so it's not a problem. That's on the, I forgot to mention that when I was doing my presentation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I think I've hit all the board members. And at this time, I don't have any questions. I'll reserve my comments for the second aspect of Martha, I do want to open it up for public comment. I know that we're kind of bumping into about an hour right now with this public hearing. So I just want to see if there's any pressing public comments. We will be continuing this hearing. This hearing will be going probably for a couple meetings. So there will be lots of time for public comment. So these are basically introductory presentations today, but I would like to ask any public comments at this point in time.
I'm seeing one raised hand at the moment, Janet Nicholson.
Okay, great. Janet, would you like to just identify yourself and your location, your address, please? Thanks very much.
I'm Janet Nicolais, and I live at 6 Central Court. And I leave every morning to go to work at 20 minutes to 7. And I can tell you, as somebody that has lived here for 36 years, the traffic on Central Street has increased by tenfold, especially with the high school. And I have sat at the end of Central Court for quite a bit waiting to get out before any of this happened. My concern, in addition to that, is the foul that's in the road with the house that's on the corner. It's a traffic hazard, and if you increase the traffic to the area, when you come over the hill coming from Triton, coming from the new fire station towards 95, there's not much of a space there for where the entrance is going to be to this new gas station. And frequently you have geese and chickens and roosters in the road. And I know myself that a motorcyclist laid down his motorcycle because he was going to crash into them. So my concern is the increased traffic with the residential agricultural nature of this area, and the study that was done in a time frame that the schools pretty much were shutting down. So that's my only concern.
Okay. Janet, thank you very much. We appreciate your comments and your concerns, and these are things that the board needs to look at and take into consideration. So thank you very much. Thank you. I don't see any other. Jacob? Jacob, would you please identify yourself and your address, please?
Yes, Jacob Murray, 15 Parker River Drive. I live off Central Court, which then leads to Parker River Drive. I submitted a letter yesterday. I don't have to go through all of them. Some of the comments were addressed. It'd be nice if they were addressed in writing either by the applicant or the board. The ones I just want to highlight are, even with the traffic study suggestions, Central Court is a very dangerous intersection in that it's moving at a 60-degree angle towards Central Street, and most people are turning onto that 95. I don't see a way at the current design, or even necessarily with the ones that were proposed, of that being a safe left-hand turn with the left-hand turns that's coming in to the gas station. At most, it looks like you would really need to modify Central Court so that it was coming at a proper 90-degree angle onto Central Street, as opposed to what's there now, where it's really coming at a 60-degree angle. The other one is, other item is just, I know this lot is, I'm not sure if this fully is planning board. The lot is an existing non-conforming lot because it doesn't have the appropriate frontage. I know from conversations with the town that this is acceptable if the site plan review and special permit is allowed. But I just want to know if the planning board will at least be considering requesting full frontage. I know that they have worked with the abutting lot in the past to modify the two lots, as well as with this project, they're looking to have an erosion control and a grading easement. Maybe also they could add that extra frontage to get to 200 feet to allow for the proper frontage, and also that could help the driveway entrances. The other question I had that kind of came in my letter, but I realized I needed some clarification. There's a queuing for the drive-through. I want to know if the town will require a queuing for the gas station itself, for the fueling stations, because I know at many of these, if they're particularly crowded, you start to see backing up, and they're not going to go all the way around the building for that, but they're going to queue in the general area. And then the other one was just if a flashing sign could be potentially considered as well along Central Street if there's a crosswalk, because I know there's also a bus stop on the other side of the road, and given an increase, and I just want to actually clarify, did I hear that the vehicle trips is increasing from 10 to 2,000? Was that a correct number as well? Sorry about a lot of the questions. I just wanted to make sure they were there for the public record.
So I'm just trying to, I think your questions did come to Martha. Martha, were all those questions, did you see those in writing? I think by email?
I did.
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw them in writing.
Cool. I think some of those questions we can answer right now, and some of them we can't, but one I'm going to direct to, since we have Lisa Mead here, I think there was a question that she could probably address of one of those five. Lisa?
There we go. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lisa Mead, I'm town council. Relative to the non-conforming lot, they would not be required to change the frontage on the non-conforming lot. The Newbury bylaw allows a modification to a pre-existing non-conforming lot for frontage by issuance of a building permit by the building inspector. And so that is permitted under 40A Section 6, and that's what the bylaw allows. And so they would be subject only to the special permits that they've applied for, as well as site plan review.
Thank you, Lisa. And with regards to the other comments,
Peter,
Peter,
could I have a quick follow-up question to that? I understand that they're not required. Could it be something that could be added as a condition, as frontage here is a significant factor towards the driveways and how they function?
So it would, the board could not require them to change the frontage. They could decide that they don't meet the special permit criteria or the site plan review criteria, and take that into consideration, but they can't require them to change the configuration of the lot.
Thank you, Lisa. Jacob, with regards to some of your other questions, I think those questions will be something that we'll take into our discussions for the consideration, but I want to thank you very much. I don't have all of your answers right now, since this is our first I'll look at this, but thank you very much for your comment. I think I saw some other hands being waved in the screen. Yes, I'm going to kill your last name. It says Sperling, so you're going to have to help me.
I'm Kathleen Pfeiffer Sperling. I live at 10 Parker River Drive. I do have a PowerPoint presentation and comments regarding the neighborhood, but are we in time constraints here?
We are somewhat, because we have a couple more public hearings that we have to get through tonight, and we're already coming up on 8:25.
Okay, so so do I get to give my presentation or not, is the question, since you said you were going to have another hearing?
We are going to have another hearing, and what we could do is, have you submitted the presentation to Martha? Martha
I
Taylor?
have. I
Okay.
have.
Right.
I saw it.
Yeah, it was sent to all of you.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. Or this
And,
morning.
and so I think that the board received that earlier today, which gives them the opportunity to review this. And at our next hearing, we could probably address some of those concerns that were raised. Would that be acceptable to you?
I'm not sure, since I prepared everything for tonight and, don't have time.
I don't want you to feel as though you don't have time. We will, if you would like to do a PowerPoint presentation tonight, we can do that.
Okay.
We absolutely can do that.
Then my one of my questions before that is, what are the hours of operation of this new station going to be?
Tony, do you want to address that question?
Yes, we will be hoping to get approval to operate 24 hours. And we do that in most of our locations, even though we don't operate most of our locations 24 hours. The reason for that is twofold. One is we don't know what conditions will change in the future as far as what might merit that kind of operation. But both the coffee operation, the fueling operation, and the convenience store, the hours actually will end up being based on the amount of customers and traffic that we have at the location. In the winter, during snow emergencies and things like that, we know that the town and with the snow plow trains are using our existing station already, and we'd like to be able to offer that also. So at least during those type of situations, we'd like to be able to be offering round the clock diesel to those kind of services. But we're hoping to get approval for 24 hours. We almost never operate 24 hours, particularly in this kind of a location. Sometimes it's a security concern. If we keep someone in the building with the lights on, it's less likely for someone to try to vandalize or break in. Sometimes we do it because there's a lot of customers, and so we're trying to satisfy that. I don't know yet at this location. We're not 24 hours at the other location. It doesn't seem like it will merit that kind of operation.
But if you have the permit for 24 hours, you then can initiate that at any time because you have the permit to have it open 24 hours without any consultation with anyone in the neighboring community. Correct? Okay.
That's what we'd like to do, because we don't want to have to come in every time we get the first and say, we want to go 24 hours tomorrow.
Okay. Martha, can I do this quick PowerPoint or no? Or Peter, can I do this quick PowerPoint or no?
If you feel it's pertinent to discuss tonight, you can, sure.
Yeah. So Martha, I think I have to share my screen. Is that how it works?
Yes, I've made you a co-host, so you should be able to, go down to the bottom of your screen, press share screen, and then double click on your file.
Did it come up?
Yes. I see it anyway.
Yes, it's there. Go ahead. Floor is
Okay.
yours.
So basically, as Janet spoke on Central Court, I want to speak to the impact of this project that would have on the neighborhood as a whole and the Central Street area regarding the use and enjoyment of the residents in the area. We live in what is known as Byfield Village. We don't live in a big town per se. I've been a resident here for 31 years. And in that time, there was a previous proposal for a service station at or around 19 Central Street by some applicants who then withdrew their proposal as there were some concerns from, I think, the residents and or they did not have enough information for a site plan. But that occurred within the last 30 years. This project is directly across the street and next to a residential agricultural area that would, the construction and having the site would highly impact the area. So I reviewed the Norse environmental report, which was dated November 13th, 2019, which is referenced on the planning board site. This is a quarter-page report that identifies the small wetlands at the intersection between Central Court and Central Street labeled 1-6A. It's only a quarter of a page report. It goes on and notes that there's a separation from the property, which may well be over 100 feet from the proposed site. This report is lacking in specificity, and again, noting it may well be over the 100 feet from the proposed site. It does not give any exact measures, which we can reasonably rely on to know how far the wetlands are from the project. There is no firm opinion or commitment from this company that the proposed site work would not interrupt these wetlands in any way. The Norse environmental website also notes that they provide wildlife specialists to support and value the assistance of the area. As Janet said earlier, you can see from the PowerPoint, IM 1257, there is wild geese on the corner of Central Court and Central Street, which come from the river. This is the corner of Central Court and Central Street. These ducks do not belong to the Pritchard farm, which has chickens already available. There's nowhere in the report provided to the planning board that these wild geese were even observed by anybody with this proposed site. They frequently come up from the river and they just hang on the corner there. There have been multiple incidents where people have had to swerve and go around just to prevent hitting the wildlife. Let's see, any project in this area would disrupt this natural habitat. Now we're going to go into the necessity of the station itself. Right here is a picture of the current station, which is across the highway from this proposed site. Here we have how it's utilized and have the tenant with the dumpster completely full. Here is the trucks that will be going in. It's easy to see it on a diagram, but to see the physical point of having a truck pulling in from Central Street to Central Court is a problem. So this is the current site across the way. And I understand that the applicant has said that they have continued their lease and that they plan to keep it open. Well, when the lease is up or they choose that they're not going to use it, that would leave that area empty and you would have an eyesore of an old gas station there. We currently have 2 convenience stores and 1 gas station. I am concerned about the fate of our small businesses. We have a convenience store in Pearson Plaza called the General Store. We also have a mini mart across the highway on Main Street, and we have the current gas station. I do not see any necessity to add more gas station and diesel fuel for people to come into our area, which is considered, as I said previously, residential and agricultural. They have done nothing to improve the station across the way. I understand it is leased, but there is nothing wrong with asking the current owner whether they can improve that station rather than putting in a completely new one across the highway. As far as safety is concerned, right now the elementary school bus stop is within Pearson Plaza. They had to move it off of Central Street because of the traffic and concern for the children. This sidewalk, IMG 1258, is the crosswalk between Central Street, Central Court side and the Byfield Plaza. Right now, any elementary school child who wants to walk over to Parker River Drive has to walk across this crosswalk, which is currently before the new site's driveways in and out. There is also, as noted by, I think, Mr. Hebert, there is no sidewalks over there as it is now. So the elementary school kids who get off the bus have to not only walk down Fruit Street with no sidewalks, get onto Central Street with no sidewalks, and go across this crosswalk in order to get to their homes. Also, on the far corner, oh, so here's a better side of it. On the far corner, on the Central Court side is where the high school students come. And there are numerous ones who cross over the road to get to the bus stop, which would be in the area of the second driveway for this project. Let's see. So the driveways themselves are the issue. The sidewalks are the issue on the site of the project. So given the rural nature of our area, there's a lot of people who walk and ride bikes in the area. So in order to walk the area, the sidewalks here, this is before the Apple building and before the site on the Pearson Plaza side. The sidewalks are not conducive, not only to disabled people, but anyone who is trying to stay off Central Street in order to not get hit by a car. And having the project further up does not allow for safety of anybody, including bicyclists who frequent this area, as well as walkers and runners. Right now, which this picture is Central Street, which is right when you get off the exit. I think it's 28. That area there, the people put up a fence to block themselves from the traffic and everything that's going on Central Street. And as you'll see further down here, there is cars coming, and right here, I don't know if you can say, oh yeah, there is no feasible sidewalk. You also see the bicycles who were previously on another slide someone presented have to go by both driveways and Fruit Street to get up. So having cars coming in also detracts from people who enjoy utilizing the area. Okay. There's some more pictures, and these pictures were taken, they're not great because I'm not like a photographer. These pictures were taken over the last 2 weeks. This is the area across from the project, but on 28 Central Street, which when you walk, you can't walk on these sidewalks. You have to walk onto Central Street because the sidewalks are all falling apart. These sidewalks were put in when they put the fire station in, because the leaching field or the tank for the fire station is right on the exit. All of these sidewalks were torn up and put back in, and right now they're completely overgrown and unable to be used. This is across from the site. Here now is the 95 North exit, which would, the traffic would be coming onto Central Street from this particular exit. This is a yield exit. It is not a stop exit. The frequency here's the yield sign. They come so quickly off of this onto Central Street and they don't stop. Here's the do not pass sign that's right off the exit. What's happening currently now is people are turning left into Fruit Street to get into Pearson's Plaza, to use the Pearson's Plaza hardware and to go to the Rusty Can restaurant. And instead of waiting, they go to the right and they do pass people there. Let's see, where am I? So the driveways are in and out of the project, go directly onto Central Street, which is already a busy road. When you come off the highway, the first left is Fruit Street and into the Pearson Plaza. And now you're asking us to have 2 immediate driveways after that into taking a left into this plaza. Right now, Fruit Street is a very busy restaurant. And there is currently commercial trucking going into Pearson Plaza because of the hardware store and the business that's there. The driveways are right after this, and having two-way driveways to accommodate directions in and out. I appreciate all the plans, but if you live in this area, it's just too busy. The exits are very quick because the space is very small. Let's see. So here's some more pictures of the frequency of the people on the bikes. You really can't see them. This was a couple days ago, and this morning I was also out there. You have people who are going to be biking right by these 3 exits. And the chance that someone is going to get injured is a high probability. Here are some more sidewalks in the area that you can't even use. Hang on here. I'm not very good at all this PowerPoint stuff. Let's
Doing
see.
great.
So anyway, now we talked about the incline going towards the fire station and the visibility for that. I think Mr. Hebert said that the visibility is good. Well, if you can see these pine trees, and here's the car coming over the hill. This is from standing in the driveway at 23 Central Street. This is standing from Central Court. They come over this hill, particularly the buses from Triton at 2 o'clock, they come barreling over the hill. And then you have the high school kids getting out and the elementary schools getting out thereafter. So basically, I think the traffic projections that were done in November of 2019 said that the traffic was going to increase from 5 to 6%, or 87 to 89 cars at peak. I don't know if that information includes any projections for the fact that the Larkin Road Bridge, which Larkin Road is the next road over, is down. When that bridge gets fixed, that also brings traffic from Georgetown to be able to access the 95 exits. There's a proposed development going in on Larkin Road, which will increase the traffic. The fact that Triton High School students driving increases over the school year because everybody starts getting their driving license increases the traffic during the school year. If those are not in the projections, then that's someone's fault for not anticipating the other traffic that will potentially be going in there. The vehicles, as someone else has pointed out, speed up and down Central Street. We cannot get out of Central Court now, no less, having a gas station with a convenience store and a drive-through coffee shop across the street. The other issue is the police department is all the way over in Newbury. So if there is any incidents from these people who are coming in from diverted traffic, it will take a while for the police to come across. One of the other issues is Parker River Drive is all on wells. We do not have access to town water at all. Any type of spillage into that area puts the jeopardy of our wells in question. The underground tanks are in the front of this property. So if there were any spillages at all, it would start immediately to go on to Central Street. The lighting issue, the lighting plan that was put up was not specific. It appears that the specifications were a little bit explained a little bit more now, but the question becomes is, even though they put lighting shields in, how far do those beams go to interfere with the residents in the area? And it says that the shields will minimize the ground foot candle cast outside the property. Minimize is not protecting it, it's allowing some of the light to get through. The exact light measurements I didn't see projected anywhere, although I'm not an engineer, so I really wouldn't even know where to look. There was no delineation as to how far the beams would go across. Lastly, the 2006 master plan, which was noted in the narrative provided by the applicant. As I said previously, we already have a gas station and 2 convenience stores. The project would substantially impact the small business owners. The narrative speaks to the statement, which they use quotes, that they endeavored to be a desirable and affordable place to live. That's what Newbury and Byfield are supposed to be. People come here for the country atmosphere. They don't come here to have access to two gas stations within a quarter of a mile of each other. This is called the Byfield Village, and that's what makes it desirable, because we're considered a village. It also notes that there is a desire to promote residents with a convenient local option to meet basic needs. As noted, these are currently being met, so we don't need, and there is no necessity for this particular project. Also in the narrative, they talk about, as far as employment of teens and mature adults, as revenue or access. The mini mart and the plaza already has difficulty getting teens and mature adults to work there. So I'm not sure exactly where that came from, except pulling it out of the master plan and then sticking it in as a possibility of support. Byfield itself already supports the traffic from the Triton Regional School District and the Governor's Academy. Cars coming from these institutions bring people who are vested in this area and not transient people coming off the highway. A couple of comments from Mr. Hebert's presentation. He said, I believe that the pass-by trips would increase by 90%, that there would be diverted trips off the highway, that this would increase the area a few thousand cars per day, and that the area is going to be a lot busier. So as a resident in the area, I really have expressed some concerns regarding the neighborhood. I also would like to incorporate Jacob Murray's letter to the board dated September 1st, as he is a civil engineer who has reviewed these plans and presented his comments and concerns. So thank you for your time. I tried to rush through as much as I could, and I would hope that you would consider the people who live in the area, including Central Court, Parker River Drive, our ducks and our fowl at the end of our street, and the fact that we can't get out our street now. And I think I asked Martha at another date, I think the board members should drive down my street and go sit on Central Court for a while and really see what we are looking at when you look across the street to see this project. Thank you for your time.
Kathy, thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you very much for the PowerPoint construction. Your photographs were wonderful and you did a great job. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Once you click off, then I can get back to the main screen. And I just want to see if there's anyone else that wants to make a comment this evening.
In general, right there.
Jim Brown, would you like to identify yourself, please?
I'm the good one. Jim Brown from 11 Parker River Drive. I have some first-hand experience with this. We lived in Peabody 30 years ago, and they put a 7-Eleven, a convenience store alone, about 1,000 feet from my house. We had to sell our house. It was so bad. 4 o'clock in the morning, delivery trucks start. The water truck, the food truck, the bread truck, the milk truck, the beeping, the backup alarms, they go on endlessly. Then you got the people who, somebody slows down to pull in, everybody's got a honk. Traffic skyrocketed. It was just a bad, bad show. And that wasn't a gas station. It was just a convenience store. You have a gas station too. You know, every single gas pump on the planet says, you know, extended use causes cancer. I mean, who needs this? We have enough traffic. People that live here came in. I drive 10,000 miles a year just to go to work, so I don't have to live in that city. That's why I came to Byfield, to get away from this stuff. That's why everybody's here. We want rural. If we want gas stations, convenience stores, we'll move to Quincy. That's all I got to say. I'm not as eloquent as the other people. Thanks.
Thank you.
Jim, thank you for your comments, and you were very eloquent, and you got your point across. Thank you, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment tonight? Okay. Jack, and I don't know it from there.
You'll need to unmute yourself.
Could you please unmute yourself? Right.
There we go. I'm Karen Barry. I live at 12 Parker River Drive, and I'm one of the few people here who is an original owner on the street. And just to talk about the rural community that we have, it's quiet up here. When we first moved onto the street and built here, the people on the street made a decision not to have street lights because of the rural feel for the town and just the quietness at night, no street lights, no sidewalks. So I think that would be very disturbed if we had this building and gas station across the way. And I agree with Kathy and everybody else that's spoken. We don't need it here in Byfield. We have our necessities met with the gas station and the 2 small stores. It would really, really ruin the rural look of the town, of this area. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karen, for your comments. I appreciate it. Is there anyone else from the public? I see Chris Murphy. And you'll need to unmute yourself. Thanks. One more time. To unmute. There you go.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I just wanted to sort of stand in
Chris,
solidarity.
just identify yourself and your address, please. Thanks.
I apologize.
That's okay.
9 Parker River Drive. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so I just wanted to speak up and sort of stand in solidarity because we're also on Parker River Drive, and we also would rather not see this go in, at least in the proposed location. We've only been here, we're on year 5, and we moved here once we had small kids. And part of the draw was there's no commerce, there's no traffic. And when I heard about the gas station, I won't rehab the traffic comments, but that was the first thing that came to mind. Was I think all the people that you're going to have coming off 95 that don't live here. And I have images of people kind of winging coffee cups out of their window and just people that aren't really invested in the neighborhood. And I would tell people when they came here, it's great, there's no street lights, there's no telephone poles, very little traffic, and it was just really appealing. And I'm just really I don't want to say hurt, but it sort of gives me negative connotation to the way that I've come to think about the current community. So I'll leave it like that. I understand there'll be more Zoom meetings. I'll express myself again, but I just wanted to speak up. My neighbors have, and I just wanted to say that I fully support everybody that's on the street, and not wanting this to go through. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Chris. They're appreciated. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment this evening? Okay, I'm gonna just make a couple comments. We did have a pre-application conference. I think it was back in March. It was pre-COVID, where Tony came in and presented this to all the different boards and fire department and whatnot. I think, Tony, at that time, I kind of expressed the concern that this is a residential area, and it is a residential rural area, agricultural area. Behind the property is a commercially zoned area, but in front of the property is a residential area. And if we were to look at the image of I think your second slide, it was an aerial, which showed that it is residential all around, in front and on the sides of this property. And it made the comment of, it'd be nice to, if we go forward with this, to somehow soften this to better fit the residential feel of this. So it wouldn't be the typical industrial looking gas station. And I know different times different organizations can design that into a component. And I have a further recommendation that I'd like to make, and it might help somewhat if this progresses, would be kind of to maybe think gas backwards. So basically having the pumps and the majority of the lighting behind the building, have the building in the front and the gas pumps in the back end of the property. That would be beneficial for a couple of reasons. One, it would take away the obvious appearance of the gas directly in front of this residential neighborhood, which would be very beneficial, and it would allow for the softening of the structure itself. And that's something that I'm sure that you talked about further. The other thing is it would actually help with your queue because it would increase that component. And I do have concerns when Triton kids are going to be jumping into Dunkin' Donuts first thing in the morning. That's going to get more than 18 cars there. I can tell you that because kids, they just drive on that stuff. I know because I have two 18-year-olds and whenever they can stop at Dunks, they do. So that's just a parental thing that I threw out there. So a couple of things that might help because, you know, as time goes along, too, we probably think what will happen with Pearson Plaza, because probably that will be developed into something as years go along. So from a planning perspective, it might make some sense to think about that. I know that we were going to try to keep this to a slower conversation, but I'm glad that we had the opportunity with the public that was present to hear and to receive this information and receive these opinions. I think it would be appropriate to schedule a site visit for the site and to also look for a continuation date in October. So the first thing I'm going to ask Martha is, what do we think for a potential site visit?
I think that would be up to the board members. Before we get on to that, though, I have received a number of letters and things from town departments and residents. I don't know if you want me to at least go through what we've received.
That would be great. Yeah.
Not to read them, but just to acknowledge that we've gotten them.
Please.
Oops. So as noted earlier, we received peer review comments from our peer review engineer, Joe Serwatka, dated June 30th. We received Mr. Hebert's peer review traffic report dated August 27th. We've received letters from the Historical Commission, from our Conservation Commission, the Fire Department, Deputy Police Chief Lucy. And from the residents, we have received letters and emails from Jacob Murray, who spoke tonight, and from Kathleen Sperling. And we've also received a petition, the beginnings of a petition, which came in right before the meeting from residents in the area.
All right. Thank you for that update, especially the petition component. With that said, board members, I'd just like to pull you real quick if you think it'd be beneficial to have a site visit. So I'm just going to kind of pull very quickly. George, would you think would that be valuable?
A site visit? Yes.
Thank you. Leslie?
Yes.
Okay. Mary?
Yes.
And Woody?
Yes, a real-time site visit would be beneficial to all of us.
Wonderful, wonderful. With that said, Martha, do you have a potential date that we could look at for a site visit?
I think it would be, you know, potentially beneficial to take a look at what might be a peak hour, get a sense of what the traffic is now, acknowledging the fact that it's not at its usual height because of COVID. But
if school is in session, we would have a very different feel for the traffic, wouldn't we?
right.
So are you thinking a morning visitation for a site visit?
Yeah, I mean, morning might be an appropriate time.
Okay. Are we thinking earlier morning?
I think it's really up to everybody's convenience.
Okay. All right. Then that being the case, I'm going to just propose maybe a 8:30 a.m. site visit, just to kind of get a feel for what the morning traffic might look like. George, would that work on your end?
Yeah, it would.
Beautiful. Leslie, would that work for you?
Yes.
Okay. Woody, would that work for you?
Yes.
And Mary, would that work for you?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, so now we just need a date, Martha, for an 8:30 site visit.
Well, I know that Tuesdays are not the best for Leslie. I'm just looking at the calendar here.
Yes.
As long as I'm freed up by 9:30, I'm good. on Tuesdays. If I can get down to Newburyport by, 9:45 at the latest, I should be okay.
Okay.
I have a quick question. When you guys do the site visits, can the people in the neighborhood be there or in the vicinity, or do you do it on your own?
Martha, do you want to direct that?
That's often up to the property owner as to whether he or she wants to allow people on their property. It's worked both ways.
What if we are in the general vicinity, not necessarily on the property?
That's
neighborhood.
That's just right. That's totally up to you. And just so you know, when we do site visits, we basically go there to look. We don't do any discussion. We don't do any interaction. And then we come back to our public hearing, and that's when we'll have our discussion as to what our impressions were, just so people understand, because that's one of the important components of us. We have to take in visuals and appreciate the environment. Okay.
I would ask though, if you're going to do a site visit, can you not only be on the property, but can you go to the corner of Central Street and Central Court and look at the property? Not only being on it, but look visually around like my presentation showed, and hopefully the ducks will be there.
Okay, they typically are there. All right, Martha, I'm just looking at a calendar. Wednesday the 16th, is that a possibility? Or Thursday the 17th?
For me personally, the 17th would be better because I have an 8:30 meeting on the 16th.
Okay, the 17th of September at 8:30 a.m. I'm going to see if we can get a board consensus on that. George?
Yes.
Okay, Leslie?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
And Woody?
Yes.
Very good. We have a date for a site visit, the 17th of September, 8:30 in the morning. And for our continuation of our public hearing, Martha, do you want to throw up our current working scenario?
Yes, I will do that.
Thanks.
Can you all see that?
Not yet.
Not
We
yet.
can.
Yes.
Yep. So we have currently 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 6 in the pipeline. Some of these things will be continued depending on how action goes today. So should we look at 4 weeks for this? Either this October 7th or the 14th?
Yeah, the 14th is actually not a regular meeting date. That's the Golf Center continuance. So the 7th and the 21st of October are regular dates.
Okay, would we want to look at and sliding this over to the 7th of the 21st? And I'd entertain a motion from one of the board members.
Motion to continue to the 7th.
Second.
And would you like that make that time specific for 7:15?
Yes, motion to continue 7:15 on the 7th.
With that amendment, and that second is still in place with you, Mary?
Second.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? Okay, then I will do a roll call. George, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, Leslie, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mary, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Woody, how do you vote?
Yes.
And the chair is in favor as well. So we will continue this hearing on to the 7th of October at 7:15. Do I have that correct, Martha?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Just have a question. Will it be the same Zoom ID?
Yes, it will be.
Beautiful. Thank you, everyone who came for this public hearing. And let me pull up my agenda. Let's see where we're at. Our second public hearing was going to be
Green Street.
Right, definitive subdivision plan for Farm View Lane, 68 Green Street, map R35 lot 21, owner applicant 68 Green Street, trust Eva Jackman, trustee. This was continued from August 19th, 2020. And Martha, do I understand that the applicant has asked to have a continuance?
Yes, we've had a request from Eva Jackman to continue to September 16th.
Okay, we can do that. Would you like that in the form of a motion to make it clean, Martha?
It's up to you.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion to continue this 16th of September, 7:15.
Motion to continue 68 Green Street Realty Trust to the 16th of September.
Wonderful. Is there a
Second.
At 7:15. I'm sorry, who made that second?
Second.
Thank you, Woody.
Thanks, Woody.
At 7:15. Wonderful. Is there any discussion on the motion? I don't see any discussion. Okay, then I'll roll call. Roll call for this would be Larry,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Leslie,
Yes.
Woody,
Yes.
and Mary. How do you feel?
Yes.
Wonderful. And the chair's in favor as well. Thank you very much. Continuing on our agenda, we have a continuance of public hearing, Newbury Self-Storage Expansion 131 Newburyport Turnpike, map R36, parcels 2324. Owner applicants, Stowaway Storage, Newbury LLC, doing business as Newbury Self-Storage, William DeFrancisco, manager, continued from August 19th, 2020, a site plan review application and a special permit application. Where are we with this, Martha?
So we have, I sent you all a draft of the site plan review decision based on the discussions previously. So I think, and we've gotten a couple of comments back from Bill, which I think I forwarded on to you. So I think tonight, one of the things we wanted to do was to review that draft decision, see if there's anything that should be added or modified, and then that can serve as the template for the special permit decision with the hope of wrapping this up at the next meeting.
Wonderful. Do you want to pop that draft up?
Actually, I can, but you'll have to bear with me because I don't have that ready.
Okay.
So
I'm sorry.
that's okay. I should have done that. I thought about that a little bit too late. So can you see that?
Not yet.
About now? No?
Not yet. It's like a Verizon commercial.
Yeah, I know, really. Hold on. Let me try this again.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I know, really. Oops. I do apologize. Can you see it now?
Not yet, Martha. But Bill, you can have your cat join the meeting. That's okay with us.
So I'm not quite sure here what I'm doing wrong here.
You're not still sharing with the Kathy, are you? Is that-
No.
All right, I'm just curious.
Yeah, well, let me try share screen again.
So it might be because you might have too many co-hosts.
I didn't change that though when I.
Okay.
Oops, nope. I do apologize for this.
That's okay. Zoom is a learning curve continuously with us.
About now?
Here we go.
There it is.
Wonderful. And if we can just make it a little bit larger for my tired eyes.
Sure.
That's great.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
So, do you want me to give a brief?
This meeting is being recorded.
We just went into significant feedback.
That was me.
Okay, so, okay, George. You're trying to sneak off.
Lost in the tunnel.
Oh, I've lost video.
Oh, no.
Oh.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute George just for a moment. And George, can you still hear? Yes, okay, I just muted you so there wouldn't be any feedback for a sec. Martha, do you want to just do a quick little summary and then we can go down through our bullets?
Sure, quick summary so that it's sort of this general standard format. The first part of it just describes the project, what was presented to us. This paragraph is our understanding of what the project will consist of. So the four buildings, paving, reserve area for existing subsurface sewage disposal system, stormwater management, crushed stone area for parking, storage at the easterly end of the expansion. Bill provided some notes regarding the buildings themselves. They won't be identical to the ones that are on there. They'll have roofs that are sloped in one direction for roof drainage. And he provided some information about that. The next portion of, so this sentence, the new buildings will match the existing, that will be modified. The next part goes through the waivers that the applicant has requested. Identifying trees over 8 inches of caliper, location, dimension, height, lighting, and characteristics of all proposed signs. There's no new signage. Landscaping, there's no new landscaping, and the applicant suggested that no impact assessments were required. I did have one question, which is this highlighted part here. The site plan review requirements do require that architectural drawings be submitted. We didn't receive any on the assumption that the buildings would be pretty much identical to the existing ones. So that might be another waiver that they would want to request because those weren't submitted. The next portion of it goes through all the materials that were submitted for the project, the original application, revision dates of the plan, stormwater, peer review comments, additional information, and resident comments that were received from Alex McArdle and the ones from Mike Jaffe regarding lighting. It then goes through the dates of the continuances, and it should be noted here that a number of these continuances were purely due to COVID. There was no discussion of the project at that point. So my suggestion would be to find some language to put in there to indicate that we didn't keep talking and talking and talking about this project. I think there have only actually been four actual hearings.
That would be appropriate, thank you, yes.
The next portion goes through the findings that the board needs to make in order to grant site plan approval. So those are A through M that are highlighted in the bylaw. And then these are the conditions of approval, which some of them are carried over from the previous project. And I've highlighted a couple here, condition regarding hours of construction. I think Bill provided some information on that. They clarified that there will be blasting, so there should be a condition regarding blasting. I've included a condition regarding tree removal, thinking about issues that we've had on some other projects. There should also be a condition, which is actually in our site plan review bylaw, regarding any modifications. We'll need to go back before the planning board for approval as either a minor modification or a major modification, which would require public hearing. So that's one that I would suggest adding. Then performance guarantee, we didn't require performance guarantee on the first 2 phases, so I'm suggesting none for this phase either, and then duration of approval, which under our bylaw, it needs to be commenced and completed in good faith within 2 years, unless there's good cause for an extension. So those are basically the basics.
Wonderful. Thank you for that summary. I'm going to start. Larry, do you have any thoughts or comments to add to this?
Yeah, just on the blasting issue, Martha, I'm almost positive that they have to get a permit from the fire department.
They do.
You might be able to simply, some language to the effect that blasting conforms to all requirements of the new fire department and or applicable provision of law. That might be sufficient. I mean, I don't know of any particular requirements that I would have sufficient expertise to offer.
There is a pre-blast survey requirement typically for any structures or wells or things like that within a certain diameter. Because of the location, I'm not sure that that's really going to apply, but I think that's a great suggestion. I'll check with Chief Janvrin on.
Their insurer is going to require them to do that anyway.
And fire department has to be on site during blasting, right?
I believe they do, and they'll put down blast mats and things like that. But I'll check with Chief Janvrin.
Anything else, Larry?
No.
Can I refresh my memory? Is there anything that's residentially located close by that would have to require like a seismic consultant to come in case for blasting for like, what is it, 250 or 300 feet?
Yeah, I can't remember what the diameter is. There is a residential structure across the street, across Route 1. Given that this work is going to be done in the back of the site, I'm not sure that really qualifies. The other closest structure really is the 101 Newburyport Turnpike, which is, Angelo Ciardello's building with Angie's service and all of that. So I think we just need to look at the diameter or the radius and see what would need to be covered in any survey.
Thank you.
George, did you have any questions or concerns?
No, I did not. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Leslie, do you have any questions or concerns?
I'm all set. Thank you.
Thank you. Woody, do you have any questions or concerns?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you. Mary, do you have any questions or concerns? Mary, let me unmute you. Could you unmute yourself, Mary? Mary, Mary, do you have any questions or concerns?
I don't. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Martha, I don't think I have anything to add to this. I think Bill did respond with some input for you. So I would say let's continue with this draft decision and just fine tune it where we need to with regards to the blasting. And it's so funny because you have something on the screen, you want to move it up and down yourself, and you can't. And I'm trying to move it up and down.
Where would you like me to go?
Could you, please go. Yeah, yes, and the hours of construction, just so those are defined. And I think there was the component of the tree, something else that you're going to add in there.
Yeah, I put the trees in here, so it was really any modifications.
Okay.
And I don't know whether Bill or Chris might want to add something to the discussion right now.
Sure, let's ask. Bill, do you have anything, or Bill or Chris, that you'd like to add to this? Bill first?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, beautiful. And thank you for your patience through this process, Bill.
No problem.
Okay, and Chris, do you have anything that you'd like to add to this?
No, nothing to add. Do you want me to add that waiver to the cover sheet for the architectural?
The waiver?
Drawings?
Yeah, I think it might be helpful since it is a requirement, and
Okay, I can do that. I also show one of the things you listed in the decision was showing the reserve area. We do have a new area for that, so it'll be shown on the plans. I'll get you new tomorrow.
okay, yes, that was one of my questions, whether we would be getting new plans before this is actually voted on.
Yes.
Okay.
The only change will be the where and the reserve area location.
Okay.
And I think that's it. I haven't updated these plans in March. Nothing's changed them since then, so I'll get you a new set of plans tomorrow.
Beautiful. Thank you, Chris. Martha, do you need anything else from the board from this perspective?
I don't believe so. If you guys are all set, if there are no other conditions that that you think should be added to this, or any modifications to, I'm sorry if I'm making everybody dizzy, but any modifications to the, the findings that the board made.
I think we're comfortable with it.
Criteria, okay.
I have just like one quick question. First of all, it's an apology. I have not done a drive-by to see the renovation that Bill Robitel did on the lighting. Has anybody else gone by and looked at that?
So I wanted to keep that kind of separate from this. So let's just button this up and then we can talk about the lighting, which is a separate issue, if that's okay. That being the case, I would, I think, entertain a motion to continue this hearing. Martha, you want to pop up our quick little planner so we can see where we should be with this?
Yes, let's see if I can overlay it on this. Whoops.
I don't think you can. I think you have to,
No, yeah.
yeah, one at a time
Yeah.
off your whiteboard.
Yep. Sorry.
Oh.
I've completely lost things now. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second. All right, I will share again. Got it?
And there it is. Okay, so our next meeting would be the
September 16th.
16th. Will we have enough time to get this buttoned up by then, you think?
Oh, I should think so, yes.
Oh, perfect. Then I would love to wrap this up if that's in everybody's feeling and continue this to the 16th of September. I think our time would probably be 7:15 as we have these all follow one another. Would there be someone who would like to make that motion?
I will move. We continue the public hearing till September 16th at 7:15 p.m.
Thank you very much. And there's a second. Okay, any discussion on the motion? George?
No discussion.
Okay, Larry, any discussion?
No.
Okay, Leslie, any discussion?
No.
Woody, any discussion?
No.
Mary, any discussion?
No.
Okay, on the motion, roll call. Larry?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Leslie?
Yes.
Woody?
Yes.
And Mary, how do you feel?
Yes.
And the chair's in favor as well, so there we go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, guys, we're getting to the finish line with this. Good. Moving along, a continuation of a concurrent public hearing, 108 Main Street, map U11, lot 1A, and off Main Street, map R41, lot 56, owner applicant Triple Q Inc. John Colantoni, Vice President, continued from August 19, 2020. This is definitive subdivision plan, application for crossing at 108 Main Street, also for a common driveway special permit application, common driveway serving 2 lots as proposed and also crossing subdivision 108 Main Street. All right.
Peter, we done?
Oh, you are, guys. Thank you very much. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Chris. Yes, yes. Is there anyone from there? Oh, there we go. Hi, Bill. Hi, John.
How are you? Good evening.
Good. I don't know if we received anything, an update from our last meeting. Martha, do we receive anything?
I haven't received any materials, no.
Okay. Is there anything new that you guys want to present? Because I know there was a discussion at Concom, and I don't know if that's going to dovetail into anything that's going to happen tomorrow with Concom.
Yeah, we wanted to, thank you for having us.
Can we share the screen?
Yeah, we just want to share the screen, and if we may.
Okay, let me, hold on a sec, I'll make you co-host.
So we just wanted to bring the board up to date. We've been putting a lot of work into tightening up in the buffer areas of each lot, like the Conservation Commission wanted us to. And also the challenge of enlarging the cul-de-sac. So this is the most recent of enlarging the cul-de-sac to the 60 feet. You could actually bring an 18-wheeler and turn it around in there now. Also, in tightening up the lots, were, since the last meeting, 13,000 square feet out of more land out of the buffer zone now for work. So when this project originally began, we were at 2.8, then down to 2.6. acres, and now we're down to 2.3 of working, in the buffer zone. So we've really been squashing it down and tightening things up, and it seems to be working. So that's probably at the point that we're at, that 2.3. And the cul-de-sac, that's how it will look at the 60-foot diameter. And then all the driveways at 14 feet, the common driveway at 20 feet. And then the turnaround on the Y is all set. And then the turnaround on the one driveway. Now that driveway is actually a little shorter now than what it was because of the 60-foot cul-de-sac, but we're still having a turnaround because it's at that 250, 252 right in that area, border of length. So everything that the fire department, wanted based on our last planning board meeting, has been done, is corrected. Now we want to put it in the final form to submit to you. We have conservation tomorrow. So we thought it would be good to take the input, what we're going to show them. So then we're not doing 3 different plans. We take the both and can file it together. That kind of in a nutshell is what we have going on. I just wanted to turn it over to Bill for a second, just to add a couple things, and then we could, take any questions.
Okay, well, I just want to reiterate that, remember the work that we did to really address the Conservation Commission concerns, and thankfully the planning board was on board. Remember, we offset the roadway from the center line and got rid of the sidewalk over here. And this green shaded area here illustrates the amount of now buffer zone separation we were able to gain through by doing that change. We went, some places are almost 40 feet wide in this area here, which was a significant improvement from our first presentation a couple of meetings ago. So, between the 2 boards, it seems like we've been going planning board, Concom almost one night, and then the next night go to Conservation Commission. But between the 2 of them, we've been working very diligently. And as John said, we've tightened the project up by almost a half acre from the first submittal. And that's pretty significant, but it's in line, remember, with how John described the project at the very first meeting, how he wanted to be a woodsy looking subdivision. He didn't want big wide open lots. He wanted the houses are neatly sited so that really you get a lot of separation between the lots, and you're going to have vegetation in between each house. You can see the vegetation left up here between 3 and 4, the vegetation between 1 and 2, and of course 3 is kind of out in the woods by itself. So, that was the flavor of the subdivision to start. And, we had some very good input from Planning Board and from Conservation Commission, and we've taken that and incorporated it into the plan that you see here tonight. And as I say, we'll go to Conservation Commission tomorrow. I think they'll be very pleased with the further reduction of activity in their area of jurisdiction. And then from there, we can finalize the plans and, hopefully look forward to an opportunity for you to draft a decision and get to a final decision.
Okay, great. Thank you. Martha, do we have anything from your perspective? The cul-de-sac has been addressed. Is there anything else that we need to think about here?
No, the cul-de-sac has been addressed. I think it would be beneficial probably to run it by the fire department one more time, but I think it looks like everything has been taken care of from what I can tell.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Let me just run down the board, see if anyone has any questions or concerns. Larry, do you have any questions or concerns?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you. George, do you have any questions or concerns? You have to unmute yourself, George. There you go.
No.
Thank you, George.
That was worth the unmuting.
Okay. Leslie, do you have any questions or concerns?
No.
Okay. Woody, do you have any questions or concerns?
No, I don't.
Beautiful. Mary, do you have any questions or concerns?
No, I just think it's good these guys are getting all this stuff done. It's encouraging.
Wonderful. Thank you. I don't have any, and I think I want to thank the applicants for working hard to get this close to where we need to get it. And I think from a planning board perspective, I think we're a lot more comfortable, and I think we're to the point, Martha, that we could probably start to get a draft going together. Would you feel?
We might be able to start one. I think we still need to see the final, the full subdivision definitive plan set, and kind of go through the criteria to make sure that everything has been addressed.
Okay.
But I could begin to set up the framework of the decision. And again, we've got two. We've got the common driveway special permit as well as the definitive plan decision.
Okay. So we have two to draft. So that's going to take a little bit more energy and activity. And we do need a definitive plan to be submitted as well.
And I don't know, because of the changes that have been made, I'm assuming that it would be appropriate for Joe to review.
Okay. So we're going to need a couple of weeks, I would think. Maybe.
Yeah, and I guess the question, for continuance, I guess the question to the applicant is how quickly things could be given back to us after tomorrow night's Concom meeting.
Because, if I may, because we have conservation tomorrow night, and we're 90% there, we just want to get the feedback tomorrow night. We could submit the definitive the beginning of the week.
Great.
Or shortly thereafter.
Okay, so we'll look towards maybe the middle to tail end of next week. Okay, Martha, can we stop the screen sharing for a sec? Beautiful. And let's pop up our schedule. So if that's going to be coming in, maybe let's say the end of next week, and then we want to get it over to Joe. So that's a couple weeks. So we're looking at probably October 7th. Does that make sense? And we could have a draft for both, hopefully by then, and with Joe's comments.
Yes, ideally.
Okay. Do you think 7th or are you thinking 14th?
Well, again, the 14th is not a regular
Oh,
meeting.
that's right. I'm sorry. I get my slip. So do you want to shoot for the 7th?
Yeah, let's shoot for the 7th. So on the 7th, we've got AL Prime now on the 7th.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to put an asterisk there. Okay.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we continue the public hearing for 108 Main Street to October 7th at 7:15.
Wonderful. Do I have there's a second. Is there any discussion on the motion?
No.
Okay. So let me do a roll call vote. Larry?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Leslie?
Yes.
Woody?
Yes.
Mary, how do you feel?
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes. And the chair is in favor as well.
Thank you. Good evening.
Great, guys. Thanks very much. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Where are we?
So we're up to 217, 221 High Road.
Okay. So this is going to be a discussion of 217, 221 Higher Road, preliminary subdivision, plan map R27, lots 51, 53, 54, 56, owner Dale B. oh my gosh.
Batchelder.
Thank you very much. I'm getting tired. And Carl Brown, lots 51 and 53, and Carl Brown and Margaret Brown, lots 54 and 56. Applicant is Gadsden Lane LLC. And who's going to speak to this, Martha?
I think Scott and Doug DeShane.
All right. Hello, Scott, and hello, Doug. Welcome.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. Douglas DeShane representing Gadsden Lane LLC. With me this evening, Adam True, the manager of Gadsden Lane, as well as Scott Cameron from the Moore and Cameron Group, Inc., our engineers on the project. As was stated, we are here tonight to present a preliminary subdivision proposed at 217-221 High Road. The project as currently proposed is a 6-lot subdivision integrating 2 existing homes and creating 4 new house lots. The aggregated land area within the subdivision is 7.3 acres. It is in your agricultural residential zone, the RAG zone. Currently, the 2 existing homes are on non-conforming lots. It is our proposal to make both of those lots conforming with this subdivision, and also, as I said, create 4 new lots, which will also be conforming to your regulations. The 4 new lots, as you'll see from the plan in a moment, are located behind the existing homes on High Road. Each of the homes will be serviced by an individual well and subsurface sewage disposal system, all are meeting the requirements of the state Title V and local regulations. The proposed road will be constructed to your town's standards. The preliminary plan is submitted, meets all of your town subdivision control regulations, and the preliminary plan is essentially a by right plan, as it does not require any waivers. I will mention there is one small wetland on the property in the far back end of the parcel. However, as designed, there is no work proposed, certainly no work proposed within the wetlands, and in fact, no work proposed within the 100-foot buffer zone to those wetlands. I do have to say up front that we did have a misstep in the process when my client did some preliminary clearing of the area. Purpose of that was so that we could get a better look at the property. It was very densely populated with scrub trees and brush. There's a considerable amount of ledge under there. And so there was some clearing done to open it up so that we could get a better look. However, as I did say, that was my client was a little premature in that action. Although there were no cutting occurring within the buffers or the wetlands, and no cutting was done outside of any property lines. In fact, the cutting was constrained to the center of the property. He did, however, retain some of the larger healthy hardwood trees, which he plans on integrating into the landscaping for the project. While this is certainly not the way we like a process to begin, and I do apologize for the misstep, I do not believe any laws or regulations were violated. And as the board will hear as we move through this process, my client is proposing extensive landscaping within the project, which will result in the restoration of a number of trees, and also intends to utilize the natural features of the site, including the outcroppings of ledge to make for a notable landscaping plan. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, that's just a quick overview. With your permission, Mr. True would like to introduce himself and just make a couple of statements. And then we would ask that Mr. Cameron provide you a more technical overview of the proposal. And then we are certainly happy to answer any questions the board might have, and are most interested in hearing your comments and concerns and things that you like about the project, so that we can work towards a definitive plan that is acceptable to the town. So With that, if you are accepting of it, Mr. Chair, I'd like Mr. True to introduce himself.
Sure. Adam, good to see you again. Go ahead.
Good to see you. I'd like to introduce myself to the board. Adam True, 1 William Hurley Way, Newbury, and manager Gadsden Lane LLC. So we're very excited to get this project kind of rolling off, and I tried to do a good job of talking to all the neighbors in the area so that they could kind of get a look at what's coming here, in the future. And proactively, I mailed out some mailers and had also dropped off some envelopes and some boxes that didn't get to people, which I then later mailed out, not realizing that mail without a stamp gets picked up by the postman. But nonetheless, I tried to reach out to everybody and was able to get all the abutting neighbors, the literature that I brought along, a new neighborhood letter, and I believe I had a preliminary subdivision plan as well in the package. I hand delivered those to Marianne Sheehan or Spacapoli and to Kevin Baker, 215 High Road, who was also some supporting letters that we'll bring to the board's attention at some point from neighbors. We've got 4 so far. I don't want to take too much time because I know that this is getting late already. So with that, I'll turn it over to Scott Cameron, I think, right?
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Hello, Scott.
Members of the board, pleasure to see you. Through the chair, would it be okay to share my screen?
Please, Martha, can we facilitate that?
I'm making him a co-host right now.
Beautiful.
Thank you. All right. So I'm going to briefly walk through the plans. It was a small package. Just give you a brief overview of the property, what we're going to do. Then at the chair's discretion, I did also prepare and bring with me some alternatives to this, being in the preliminary process. And with Adam's past experience with preliminary subdivisions, we wanted to hopefully talk to you a little bit tonight about some waivers that we feel we'd ask the board maybe to consider to make the project conform a little bit better to the land than what kind of the one-size-fits-all zoning and subdivision regulations would dictate us to do. Because as you know, not every property is exactly the same. So there isn't one size for every property. So what I'm sharing with you is an overview of the existing conditions of the property. As Attorney DeShane mentioned in the introduction, the property is formed and shaped around the 2 existing homes in the frontage. That was significant in Adam's effort to maintain the streetscape of the property of what is normal on High Road as you drive down. And really picking this area between the 2 dwellings to bring in the curb cut for the road and come down. As you can see from the topography, the high point is on High Road. This slopes down away from High Road at a gradual slope towards the marsh in the rear. We did have DeRosa Environmental delineate the limit of bordering vegetated wetlands on the property, which we showed here in the plan, and these were located by instrument survey. This is kind of a projection that comes up along the property line, and there's a 100-foot buffer zone that extends off of that. The plans also show the limit of the 100-year floodplain, and I'll also note there is also the limit of an area of critical environmental concern associated with the marsh that does follow elevation 10 on the plans, but that's further down below the floodplain, and no work would be proposed back in that area. We're not planning to go anywhere near that. The soils on site, this is kind of an interesting site, Chatfield Hollis soil type. It's called a rock outcrop. So the soils, you can see it when you walk out there. There are some outcroppings of rock, and in between that, there's good soil that's well drained. We did do some preliminary soil testing on the site, and we'll be following that up over the coming weeks with more official soil testing with the Board of Health witnessed. So the project itself is a 6-lot subdivision with the end result of creating 4 new dwellings. The road was designed in this submittal following strictly the regulations for subdivisions in Newbury with your 53-foot road, 22 feet of pavement, shoulders, sidewalk, the 82-foot diameter cul-de-sac right-of-way and the 70-foot diameter pavement with the island in between. And the houses were situated around that radially, meaning the frontage and area requirements, 125 feet of frontage, 40,000 square feet of area minimum on each lot. The two lots in the rear do get a little bit bigger, 50,000, 55,000 for lots 3 to 5. Mainly this land is retreated in the back. And then again, maintaining these homes in the front with buildable footprints. And it was really the intent of this to put together effectively a yield or your conventional subdivision plan. What we would contend does not require any waivers or relief from the zoning bylaw. We did also provide a preliminary site plan so you can get a sense of how this might come together, showing the grades of the road. Again, the road would follow the topography, sloping down away from High Road to a point in a cul-de-sac. We are keeping 100% of the work outside of the buffer zones associated with the road, so this would not require any Conservation Commission approvals, really just a one-stop before your board, and then on to eventually building the road. Two of the homes, well, one of the homes for sure will likely have a notice of intent application that would come up on the lot development as a separate application to the Concom. The other lots would fall mostly out of the buffer zone. The lots would be serviced by wells, private on-site wells, and septic systems. So as far as the draw of water on the ground, typically you're going to see about 90 to 95% of that go right back into the ground through the septic system. So the draw out through the private wells and dispersal back through the septic systems is a very good way to keep the water on the site. So if it is okay through the chair, I did prepare also some color plans, and I just wanted to show you kind of how this road lays out on the site. Mr. True did pay for a drone survey to be conducted, and I have this up in front of you now. This would be your conventional subdivision plan, which really kind of, for me, this puts kind of some scale and mass to the road. The black and white plans don't always effectively paint that picture for you. What you can see here, again, this is the subdivision regulation, standard right-of-way and roadway layout. What is notable on this plan, there's a large walnut tree here that was a little stressed. There was a larger evergreen that had kind of grown up through it, so you can see the lighter or the thinner tree coverage on one side of it. But it's a beautiful tree. It needs a little bit of pruning. Some of the dead limbs that the evergreen tree had worn away over the years need to be cut out, but it does appear to be a healthy tree and really a feature to remain as part of the project. And then as you go through, there were several oak trees, 8 to 12-inch caliper that were preserved. You can kind of see the footprint of the road on the site. The white, by the way, are some of the rock outcrops that you can see throughout the property. Zoom in a little bit. So there's kind of these little rock outcrops. They're kind of a neat, I don't know, they're kind of a unique rock. Look like they might have had some marine origination geologically. But those are kind of traversed throughout the site. So this is kind of the standard subdivision, preserving the houses on the front. These would be renovated. What we did look at then was, if we just take your standard subdivision, we squeeze it down a little bit. Provide a smaller cul-de-sac, perhaps a narrower right-of-way. The cul-de-sac would be designed, instead of a 70-foot radial on the pavement, bring that down to 60. Instead of an 83-foot radial on the right-of-way, we bring that down to 70. Instead of a 53-foot right-of-way, we bring that down to 40. Maintain the same pavement width of 22 feet, but eliminate a sidewalk, more pavement, and possibly super elevate the road. In this case, where you're putting, your electrical utilities on one side of the road and your drainage swale on the other side, still having that country effect. But between the conventional, and I'll just flip back and forth between the two, you can see how that squeezes everything in considerably on the footprint of the road. What this would then also let us do is bring in the limit of work. We could certainly reduce this. This is just showing 487 feet versus the 500 foot in the conventional, but this road could also be squeezed back to maybe a 450 foot length. So we're shortening it as well. And that's pulling all the development closer towards High Road and away from the resources out in the back, which we would consider having more value and more, preserving and keeping away from that area. And in this simple task of shrinking the roadway would be 3 or 4 geometric waivers that we would ask the board to consider under this type of scenario. So eliminating the sidewalk, a smaller radius in the cul-de-sac. And again, this is all in favor of what we would tasking you to determine is in the public interest to reduce the footprint and impact of this project. Not creating any more lots, not really changing anything else, just reducing the environmental footprint. And then I said, well, this is still kind of a conventional lollipop runway type road. It's really nothing, it's not doing us a lot to really work with the land. We're still kind of constrained by the linear geometry of it. And what if we start taking that to the next level? And we looked at an even more unique design using some more waivers. Again, still looking at the public safety aspects, making sure we can turn a fire truck around. But in this case, doing more of a teardrop shaped cul-de-sac. And what you can see we're trying to do here is we've now avoided the ledge outcrop on the left. This is a really distinguished rock outcrop. We're working it around some of the rock outcrops on this side and this side. And we're working it around these trees that are existing. They're younger hardwood trees, but we're really shaping this better to the land and trying to bring this around. At the same time, you can see there's some rock formations, the white kind of popping out here. There's some other white kind of tucked into the corner between a driveway here and the road. But what we're trying to do here was to try to further shape the road to the land and try to fit that in better. So we're minimizing excavation. We're trying to preserve and make the rock and the trees more of a feature than something that we're blasting through, and designing the lots in kind around those existing features. This year, I still don't feel this is a tremendous amount of waivers. I think on this one, we're getting off of your standard circular cul-de-sac into more of a teardrop design, which may be a waiver, certainly on the radial piece. Reducing the right-of-way here, again, we're squeezing all this in. So we're pulling, a 53-foot right-of-way is massive. We're bringing this down now to 34 feet. I would even throw out the idea of a 30-foot right-of-way if the board were so inclined, because you simply don't need all that. I would throw out the idea of a 20-foot width of pavement. It's only 4 lots. If we're providing shoulders where you can push snow and 20 feet meets the fire access and the fire department, we're okay with that, which we would certainly expect to be meeting with them, even trying to push this concept a little further. Again, we're happy to do whatever the board's discretion is. We wanted to get these ideas on the table to let you know that we are thinking about alternatives to your conventional, subdivision. We understand the board has to make that decision on which direction to go. We're happy going either way. I think this final concept, we really get away from a lot of the structural footprint of this project, even the stormwater management, where the conventional would almost certainly necessitate a large underground kind of structural retention system underneath the cul-de-sac. This year, I would be looking to fit this topography and do no mitigation, or just enough to make sure we're providing the treatment and we're not increasing any runoff. But we have a tidally influenced wetland out back, so we're not worried about flooding. We have only a 4-lot subdivision, so we're not worried so much. It actually falls under the stormwater standard threshold. If you get to 5 lots, that's where you need to really start worrying about treatment. But we can get really creative with the design of this to really, minimize the impact of the development and still comply with really the technical standards that we hold dear to make sure we're protecting the environment. I know it's late. I'll stop there. I'm happy to stop the screen share or put it on whatever you choose. But thank you, and we look forward to starting our conversation with you.
Thank you, Scott. We'll stop the screen share for a sec, but we might pull it back up in a couple of seconds. How's that sound? All right. Let's see. Where are we? Martha, let's start off first with any comments or concerns that you might have as the once over on this.
Well, having seen the alternatives for the first time, it's a little hard to really comment too much. I do appreciate the thought going into trying to minimize the impact of the footprint on, on the land, work with the land and the topography. I'm very much in favor of keeping, especially the mid-century modern house that's up front, because I understand that's going to be renovated, and it's really, to my mind, a very cool structure. I do think that the third alternative there, going down to a 30-foot right-of-way is way below, I think, anything that the board has approved up to this point. So I think we'd have to look at that very carefully. 20 feet of pavement, we're consistently told by the fire department that they want 22, which is our minimum. So again, that might be something that would have to be looked at pretty carefully. And certainly all the turning radiuses with a teardrop shape or other kind of deviation from the norm. But I appreciate the effort aesthetically. And one question I have, I don't know whether there are any alternatives to the right-of-way layout or dimensions that would help regularize the lots a little bit. You know, each of them has a very long tail to get the required square footage that you're looking at for the lots, and the 32,000 outside of the buffer zone, or I mean, outside the wetlands at the back lots. So I don't know if there's anything that could be done with that. Thinking largely for the people who might be buying these lots to have the tails going off that way, it essentially becomes kind of unusable property. But that's just my thought.
Very, very valid point. But we're trying to get to more consistent visuals too, I think, as we look at projects. So again, yeah, I also appreciate the creativity, Scott, of trying to work with land to have it fit best. So it's nice to see this. And again, it is the first showing to the board. I'm just want to.
I do have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Just for clarification. So my understanding is that this is intended to be a private road not offered to the town for acceptance, and that there will be a homeowners association that would be responsible for maintenance and upkeep. Is that correct?
Well, we are proposing to design and build the road to your standards with whatever waivers the board feels reasonable, and certainly would, I think the original intention would be that it would be a public road, but we are under the understanding that that the town is not currently accepting of that, in which case we would make it a private road, and as you stated, Martha, it would be subject to a homeowners association with respect to maintenance.
Thank you.
Did you have another question, Martha?
No, that was it. They're kind of tied together.
Okay, cool. Let me just see if anyone on the board has any questions or concerns at this time. Larry, where are you?
Just a couple, and I'll try to be brief. I know it's getting late. So are you going to need some sort of zoning relief for number 217?
Well, we are, as currently with the modifications to the lot for that property, the garage to the I believe north side is non-conforming, as it is too close to the lot line. That has been its status, as I understand, since its construction. So yes, we would be faced with either taking down a portion of that garage to make the house conforming, or seeking a variance to allow the garage to remain.
When would you anticipate approaching that? Concurrently with the subdivision? Or?
With the definitive subdivision, yes, sir.
Okay. Now, is there public water available on High Road in that area?
Not that far down.
No. So which I assume is the reason for the wells. So what do you do about fire protection then?
Scott, are we, I know
on this particular site, we would probably anticipate putting in some sort of a cistern. We would certainly want to meet with the fire department and talk about what they would be looking for on this. Obviously, with bedrock, a cistern becomes a little concerning. So we might be pushing maybe for some alternatives to that.
Martha might help you here.
Yeah.
I've had some
So-
discussions with the fire department about this recently, and this is actually a change they want to make to our subdivision rules and regs. They don't like cisterns. So they are very much encouraging, instead of cisterns, having the houses sprinkled.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand that there are tanks that can be put in the basement that are specifically designed to do that, and that is definitely their preference these days.
So there's a way to deal with it in any event.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. And lastly, are there any sidewalks on High Road in that area?
No.
So basically a sidewalk in this subdivision would be a sidewalk to nowhere, essentially. Is that?
Actually, let me restate that there is a sidewalk. A little further down the street, there is not one.
Okay, that's something we could certainly look at,
Yep.
waiving that. All right, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry. George, any thoughts at this point in time?
Peter, you and Larry and Martha have taken care of everyone I know about. I'm all set. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, George. Leslie.
I'm all set at this time. Thank you.
Okay, Woody?
No, but I will say, I think the sidewalk ends there at Bayview Lane, just to note, or maybe right at Bayview Lane, so that's all. But no, I have no other questions.
Thank you.
No questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Woody. Mary?
Nope, I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay, beautiful. All right, Martha, where would we like to go from here?
Well, just a couple things before we go. And again, this is not a public hearing,
Right.
different process. But we have gotten some comments from Mariah Lucy, who isn't a butter to the project, expressing support. And she's on, I don't know if she wants to say anything. And also from Mary Ann Sheehan next door, who had a series of questions, which I forwarded both to the applicant team as well as to the board members. And I didn't know, Doug or Scott or Adam, if you wanted to address any of her questions tonight.
Well, actually, it's up to the board. We're prepared to just briefly answer the questions. However, I would certainly be willing to provide a written response to those questions for Ms. Sheehan. But again, Mr. Chairman, I can run through them rather quickly and still follow up with written responses, or we can respond directly in writing.
I'm okay with quick responses.
All right, if that's all right. The first question was, did the cutting of the trees adhere to rules and regulations? My answer to that is it's certainly not, it did not violate any laws or regulations, but as we have said, it's certainly not in keeping with the process as we would have preferred it to happen. But there were no violations of law or regulations. She asked, what is the status of the survey? The only markers I can see appear to be from a survey done some years ago. Scott, you can verify this, but I believe they have done a complete survey of the property. Our plans are reflective of that recent survey, and I know the markers are out there. They're just maybe not as prominent. But Scott, it is true that this plan represents a recent survey?
The plan actually doesn't represent a full survey. However, on the definitive subdivision, we will be presenting the results of that survey. It has been completed. We're actually just waiting for the aerial topography to come back, but we're done with that work. And during that process, per 250 CMR, which is the survey statute, we would be monumenting the corners.
Thank you. The next question, please describe the process around granting variances. In this case, I believe there are 2 required. Please confirm in what is the process and what role does an abutter play in the granting of a variance. Well, if Ms. Sheehan is speaking to the variance regarding the garage at 217, we will be going before the Zoning Board of Appeals for a variance for that garage. If what she's referencing are waivers, and again, that we mentioned briefly, those waivers would be sought through the planning board. And obviously, abutters have a role in that, in that they will be able to comment and provide input to the board in their determination of whether to grant the waivers or not. Again, our conventional plan, the by right plan, does not require waivers. However, if the board desires that we seek one of the alternative designs in order to minimize impacts, then we would require anywhere from 2 to 5 waivers, depending on the exact design. Question 4, how will the ledge on the subdivision property be dealt with? It lies close to my property line. Does it remain? If not, how is the developer removing the ledge? As I think Scott said, Adam is making every effort, as is Scott in his alternative designs, to work around the ledge and to actually integrate those features into the site and into the landscaping, which can be quite attractive. However, to the extent that there is ledge that does need to be removed, there are generally 2 methods. It's either drilled and cracked, or it's blasted. If blasting is required, I presume we would seek permits through your fire department to allow for the blasting. A blasting plan would be provided. There would be blasting surveys done on all surrounding properties. And then the blasting would be done on a scheduled process that provides notice to all abutters when it's going to occur. It is a very controlled process that is generally overseen by the fire department. So we are doing everything we can to minimize and avoid any type of blasting. And to the extent we're able to do that, we will. And otherwise, we will follow whatever blasting protocol is required by the fire department. Number 5, if permits are granted, how long will the project from groundbreaking to completion take? How will construction noise and other effects of the building process be handled or mitigated? Well, not quite being able to know what the market will bear, although we do know that the market is very busy right now. My client estimates that from start to completion, we could be looking at 18 to 24 months. And again, that would be driven by the market. If the demand for these homes is higher, that process could be reduced significantly, but I did want to give you sort of the outside estimation. As far as construction noise, the town does have regulations that limit the hours that we can operate. They do have noise ordinances that we will have to adhere to. And so again, the development is a well-controlled process, and there are regulations in place to address things like noise and hours of operation. Number 6, how will drainage be handled and where will water be diverted to? Again, depending on the ultimate design, we will either be collecting stormwater and putting it into a subsurface infiltration system, or if we're able to reduce the infrastructure, if you will. I believe Scott has indicated that we'll be moving more towards a country drainage scenario, where we would collect the water with a series of swales and allow the water to percolate into the ground through the swales, through grassed areas and stoned areas. There would be no need for any type of large underground structure. But I can assure you that whatever methodology is used, we are limited. We cannot increase the runoff of the property to surrounding properties. And in fact, we will be controlling and re-infiltrating our water on our site. And the board knows that they will be responsible for determining that our drainage system will in fact meet those standards. Question 7 of 10, what kind of noise abatement is being considered given that 5 or 6 houses are being built along with a road? We would be building 4 homes along with the road. And again, you know, our hours of operation will be limited, and, you know, all of the trucks will be required to be muffled and meet regulations in terms of their operation. And again, I do believe there's a noise ordinance that we cannot exceed. Question 8, will there be streetlights put in the road and the cul-de-sac cul-de-sac? And if so, what, if any, light mitigation is considered? I do not believe we are proposing streetlights. However, if there were streetlights, we're always required to make sure that they're shielded downward facing and so that there can be no light pollution outside of the property. But we are not proposing streetlights. Number 9, what, if any, landscaping will be done around my property line? I will say this, that from what I've seen, Mr. True is proposing a significant amount of landscaping in this property, and again, utilizing the natural features. So I will hold off on any specifics until we can present to the board and to Ms. Sheehan a proposed landscaping plan. I will tell you that we are looking at trying to maintain as much treed buffers between the properties as we can, especially the properties outside of the subdivision. And again, one of the main goals in potentially reducing the footprint, pulling back on roadways, pulling back on cul-de-sac sizes, is so that we could pull the houses closer to the center. That would provide us greater distances to the rear lot lines and hopefully allow for even greater buffers to our neighbors, such as Ms. Sheehan. So I will commit that we will be certainly talking directly with Ms. Sheehan about the landscaping and the impacts that our project will have. Adam has given us our marching orders that he wants to be a good neighbor and he wants to work with his neighbors, as evident by his efforts to date, where he's really tried to reach out. Last, what, if any, study has been done regarding the effect on wildlife, cutting of trees, creation of subdivisions have an effect on wildlife and birds? We have not done a wildlife study. As I said, we are, at least the roadway development and lot development will be outside of the buffer zones in the wetlands, so we don't trigger any need or any requirement to do a wildlife study of any kind. So we have not done one, as one is not required. So those are my quick answers, Mr. Chairman. I will make sure that those are put in writing and provided to both the board and Ms. Sheehan as soon as possible.
Wonderful. And I think as we go further into actually a hearing, we can, detail these things further. Okay. Is there anything else that we want to hit on this evening, Martha, with this?
I can't think of anything.
Okay.
Oh, Doug raised his hand.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Doug.
Excuse me. The one thing I would mention too is that we would certainly invite the board to come out onto the site and see what we're doing and what we're looking at doing, and also understand our plans with respect to preserving the existing home. So if that's something the board would like to do, we will certainly accommodate that.
Okay, cool. Very good. Appreciate that. Okay, so Martha, I think we'll be kind of looking for maybe some more discussions offline with regards to some of these things before they come before the board.
Well, it can't be too much discussion offline.
No, I mean to you. There will be things submitted to you, and then you can get them to us, and then we. And that'll give some direction as to what might be a final.
Right.
Final
I guess
application.
one question is, what feedback is the applicant looking for tonight from the board in terms of the alternatives that were suggested? And is anybody in a position to even give that at this point?
I think as, for just seeing these presentations for the first time, I'm not sure I feel comfortable asking folks to weigh in on it. I'd rather have them kind of process it a little bit, and then maybe have an opportunity to then give some feedback then, quite honestly.
Is it possible that copies of the plans that you provided tonight I could distribute to the board, so at least they'd have the visuals?
Yes.
Of course.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, let's do that, and then we can take our next steps. Does that sound good, Scott?
Works for me.
Okay.
Yes.
Adam?
Sounds good.
Okay, and Doug? Okay, good. Very good. Well, we appreciate you coming by to share this and have us have the opportunity to look at some of your concepts.
Thank you.
All right, well, we look forward to hearing your ideas on those concepts and providing us some direction on the definitive design. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
We
When,
will advise on the time when this will be back on the agenda.
Beautiful. All right. Martha, I'm looking at the agenda of 9:30 of new business, and I see the word none next to that.
That is correct.
All righty. I don't think our liaison reports, the Board of Selectmen's done, ZBA's done. MVPC, Martha, do you have anything?
No, the first commission meeting of this fiscal year will be in this month, later this month.
Okay, great. Then I think we're set with this evening, unless anybody, Woody, yes, sir.
I just want to note that we never got back to Newbury Self, Route 1 Newbury Self Storage light
Oh,
shield.
yes. Thank you very
I don't
much.
even know if we can talk about it now, but we just never got back into that.
Yes.
So
Martha,
that was about it, a drag to me now. But
I think we can discuss it. It doesn't have to do with the public hearing. Am I wrong, Larry?
I wouldn't. I mean,
Okay.
we've released them for the night, told them there's not
Okay.
going to be any more discussion. I
Okay.
wouldn't feel comfortable.
Thank you for the direction, Larry. I appreciate that very much. Okay. Any other topics for discussion tonight? Okay. Guys, it was a long meeting, 10:15. I apologize. I was hoping to keep it to 9:15. But we did have a lot of public comment, which I think was valuable. So with that said, I would entertain an opportunity to have a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, Leslie, thank you very much. Is there a second?
Okay.
Thank you,
Second.
George. There's a second. Is there any discussion on the motion, anyone? I don't see any discussion. Larry, how do you feel about this motion?
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Leslie,
Yes.
Woody,
yes.
and Mary.
Yes, indeedy.
I think the chair is in favor as well. Everyone, thank you very much and have a good evening. Thank you, Martha.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Long meeting. We got a lot done.
Please.
All right, good night.
Have a good night.